Call this meeting to order. Well,
Okay, we're here for the subsidies tonight. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna start it, we have a list of whatever we want to do.
yeah, can you put that order up?
We'll go on the list of whatever the order on the board is, and what we'll do is if, we have,
Oh, yeah. This one.
questions for whoever is up on deck that time, we'll call them up and ask them. We'll have one spokesperson for each group. We'll have one people talking. It's not gonna be a discussion, it's just if we have questions for people, we'll call them up. Ask them a question about what they're asking for us. Nothing's gonna be etched in stone because of the time 28th we have coming up, so our budget is a question mark as we speak right now, because we don't know what it's gonna be. We'll have in November to do that, so we'll hear everybody out and we'll go from there.
I have one housekeeping item, quick.
Okay?
If you're looking at this sheet on your desk, I just wanted to point out what it is. You've already seen this before. It's just the first couple pages are the capital requests. The ones that are highlighted in yellow are highlighted because council discussed them at the last meeting. That next page is just full of some additional discussion items that have come up in the budget. We have one new item listed there for the drainage of the infield at Cadwell. And then the last page would show the subsidies, also showing up on the board there tonight. And then we did get the final property tax growth numbers, so we have an additional $5,000 there. Yes?
I see where, on that last page you were talking about, you're talking about the 2025 application. Where would I find what they were awarded
Sure.
in 2024?
I can pull that up here, actually.
We just pull it up as we,
Yep.
as each group.
Yep, that's great.
Want to do that way? We'll just go up, like we talked about the land.
I don't care how, as long as I know.
You'll see here.
This isn't in the right order, though. Yeah, so I can pull up that historical review when we get to each one here, too. Just give me 1 second here.
This is the order we're going in the last page?
Can you remind me again, Stephanie, the Cadwell, where exactly, what page is that one on?
The Cadwell is the
Second
second
to
to
last.
page last. Wow, that was a jumbled sentence
Second to
there.
last page.
Second to the last page. We didn't have that dollar amount before, so I just wanted to make sure council saw that. And then the rest of the items, I gave you more details in my question and answer follow-up after our first budget session. But I just wanted you to know that this is just a duplication of what you've seen before, but in case someone needed something to write on while we go through these.
Okay, we'll start out first with Mitchell Municipal Band. They're requesting 11,500. John, see what's happening faster.
So here's the historical funding on the band. You can see going back from 2011, 10,000, it went up to 10,500 in 2015, then down to 10,250. There was 1 year where they didn't request funding due to COVID the previous year. And then, yep, this year in 2022, you helped them buy, I believe it was a new trailer.
Sound system.
Sound system. Man. Okay, sound system, sorry about that. And then here's the most current one. So in 2024, the request was 11,000, council approved 11,000. This year, the request is 11,500.
How many shows a year do we get for that? Don't they play like every Wednesday night or something? Oh, yeah, I guess we can have someone come answer questions.
So what you guys are paying for that amount of money is our personnel for our summer concert series that starts in June and goes through August.
And that's like every Wednesday, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
in the evenings.
Through August.
So that's a paid position?
Yes, so we do pay our personnel in the band. That helps offset instrument repair for them. They're in charge of all their own instruments. Also covers gas, any other expenses that they would have participating in the band. And then anything that we do above and beyond the summer concert series. So we have played for the Midwest Honor Flight a few times. We've played for Corn Palace Week. anything like that that we do, Christmas at the Capitol, all of those are volunteer hours. So you're paying for the personnel for the summer concert series, but then the band is very active in the community and outside of the community on Mitchell's behalf, pro bono volunteer.
And do you ever put out like a collection, like people can tip you or?
Yes, we do.
Are you able to collect much with that?
Yeah, we've actually had pretty good success. It's hit or miss depending on how hot the summer is for how social humans are to get out of their vehicles
Yeah.
and enjoy the concert actually in the park. So not this last summer, but the summer before, we collected about $600, and $500 of that we put forward to the 5th and 6th grade band festival to try to sponsor youth music events as well.
And how many band members are there?
Where are we at right now? 60?
Wow. So you pay all of them to play?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes, including students. We do have some sit-in musicians, so some musicians that just kind of come in to help fill in, or student musicians. If they only come one or two times, we don't pay them. Within the volunteer structure too, we have people who come in, set up the sound system, tear down the sound system, move the truck and trailer, help clean up the chairs and set everything up. They come early, they stay late, and we do try to provide them a little bit extra bonus for their time and their effort and their volunteerism.
If my math is right, then each musician is getting $128.33.
And just a little bit less than that, because we are paying our director out of that amount of money, and then we also are paying our guest directors who come. We get area teachers. We had high school teacher from Huron. We've had the USD past music directors come. They provide their own music as well as their own gas, pay their way. So we give them a little extra money for the time that they're using to pull out of their music library and travel to us. And that's a 2-day travel for anybody who comes, Tuesday night for practice and then Wednesday for the performance.
So they get paid about $10 a week?
Kinda, yeah.
Wow.
And we have
Pretty reasonable
musicians-
wage, I think, in this kind of.
Yeah, and we have musicians coming from Platte. We have musicians coming from Mount Vernon. It's not just specifically Mitchell, South Dakota musicians to make up the Mitchell Municipal Band. A lot of excited people.
And it's probably important to note that they come for rehearsal and for the performance. So
Yep.
it's less than $10 a week.
Wow, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's $10 a week, but they're
Don't they do the farmer's market a lot of times before that?
Yeah, and that actually this summer was great for us for growth of audience. So instead of pulling 2 events, one downtown and then one in the park, actually moving the farmers market was great for our attendance. It got a lot of people, I think, went late to the farmers market and stayed into our concert this year.
I drove through there sometimes, there's plenty of people.
Yeah, yep, it was a great turnout this summer.
Any other questions?
Nope.
thanks for what you do.
Thank you.
Stephanie, remind me again, the last year's numbers are in the budget. Is that a true statement?
No, I
Oh.
didn't plug in, I mean, yes, but what's in the budget right now, you'll see on. Excuse me, I didn't have my microphone on. You'll see right up here for general fund, last year's level was $380,000, so I added that dollar amount to contingency, but I didn't put any dollars in any individual budgets. So I just have the amount from last year set aside. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
It does.
What was theirs last year? Can you just, 11, so the same?
Well, they're
No,
asking.
they asked for a $500 increase.
Okay.
And Stephanie, as the night goes along, obviously, we're giving guidance on what we want to possibly support and approve, but is this, obviously, we got to close the budget in November, but as in the relation to IM21, I mean, do we got to make a statement that this is just, these are what we want to, but I think we all know if substance IM21 failing, obviously.
IM28.
28, sorry, failing, obviously, none of these can be approved. I mean, we won't have the funds. We'll be trying to figure out how we're cutting back $6 million.
So I think what council could do is you could direct me to notify subsidies that these are tentative approval, but that no final approval would be given until after the first of the year or after the November timeframe. You've done that in the past.
And I don't know where everybody else on council is at, but obviously I know we all know the concern of that coming up, and that's just sort of where my situation is at if that would happen to fail or pass, I should say. I think this is one area that we would start with our cuts, I guess. sadly to say.
I'd be in support of it as of right now. Until we know what's going on.
Correct.
Yeah, makes sense. And again, to reiterate, we are structurally balanced right now. So we add $500, we're going to have to take it away from something, and that, we don't need to go line item by line item, but Stephanie, I'm sure, is going to keep track. And then in the end, we're going to say, this is what we've added, so what are we going to look at to subtract?
Jeff, we are structurally balanced, providing we don't give any one of these an increase, correct?
Correct,
If they were at last year's level.
correct.
And and also, that if it's a new request, they're at zero, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So what do we want to do for tentative, put it back at 11,000 for this year?
Is this the only subsidy thing we're doing?
We'll finish it up in November.
Okay. So we're going to make tentative approvals tonight. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, these won't be.
Okay.
I'm fine with 11.5.
I think 11.5, for the number of concerts they put on, in the variety of musics they provide our city, I think an extra $500 is hopefully going to be the thing that breaks us.
Good with that? Okay.
I'm good with that, too, yeah.
Next, we'll go to the Exchange Club fireworks display. 10,000, I think we get 10,000.
Yep, you have. It actually has been 10,000 and, I have the wrong glasses, since 2015. Prior to that, it was 7,500, but you did an increase in 2015. Then during COVID, everybody kind of saw a different allocation that year, but.
I just got a message that we need to make sure that when you're talking into your microphone so that everyone can hear, including media.
I don't have a problem with leaving them at $10,000, what we have given them in the past and what they are requesting.
I'm not in opposition either. Is anybody here from the Exchange Club? Abby, come on up. I think everybody in the room knows how big I'm on fireworks. My question I have for you is, and I'm obviously good at the 10,000, but obviously it's been this number for 9 years. I think we all know, and I personally know how much fireworks have increased in cost. Are you guys getting additional funds donated to you? I mean, to keep the display that you guys have been producing every year on a yearly basis, that going, or
Yeah,
how are you subsidizing the additional?
we send notices out to other businesses in the Mitchell, and it usually works out that your 10,000 plus what we get from other businesses is very close to what it costs. So Exchange Club doesn't really make money on it, and we lose a little bit every now and then. But it is crazy how it gets very close to what the cost is, so.
I just knew the huge increase in fireworks and just wanted to make sure that you were just getting where you're at. I figured you were probably getting some additional funding from other groups, which is good to hear, so.
Yep,
I'm glad
last
of it.
year, the city of Mitchell accounted for like 56% of the cost, basically. And then the businesses were the other 44.
Thank you.
And your show is always just so great. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you very much.
I do have one more question. Have you guys ever considered the possibility of a drone show in replacement of fireworks?
Actually, it did get brought up at a board meeting not long ago, and I thought they said somewhere in, it might have been Yankton or Vermillion they did it, and the cost was crazy. I want to say 50,000-ish. I don't remember the amount, but it was way more than what we're spending right now.
But that'd be like 5 years of shows, right? How long, I wonder what the lifespan of those drones are. Or that's 50,000 a year.
I
I
believe,
assume it's a year.
Oh, okay.
yeah, in doing research, I think that that's a fairly close estimate.
Yeah.
That you're typically probably paying somebody to come in and do it, and that being a big day, it's like any hotel, you get to charge what you want.
Yep, that's my knowledge too.
All right, thank you. Everybody's good with 10? Yeah. Next, we'll go to Dakota Heartland Development Association for 25,000.
And that dollar amount has been the same since 2023. Prior to that, it was at 30,000 through 2017, and then various amounts since then. Last year, the request was 25,000, and council approved 25,000.
25, 25.
Yes.
You know, so I went through all of these, every single one of these applications. One thing I really liked how these guys did was it said recent accomplishments, and then it gave a list of everything that got done. So I just want to thank you guys for putting that in there, because it's nice to see what happened with the money that got spent.
I'd be very comfortable with the 25.
Me too.
Everybody good with 25? All right. We'll move on to Monty for 75,000.
I think I saw Terry come in. I was going to ask you a question, Terry.
Is this just for dump fees? Is that what it was last time?
Terry Sabers here, President of Mitchell Area Housing. In the application, it's laid out for acquiring and demoing and getting rid of the waste.
So I don't think, Terry, we've used 75 since we've started this. Is that a
No.
true statement? You've taken one or two down, but we've never
Right.
got the third.
About, 28, but if I could come up with two, I'm working on one right now that I hope we can get done by the end of the year.
Oh.
We all know there's a lot more of them out there, but I
Yeah.
can't seem to get the people to realize that home should be torn down and find them another spot, so. And that's why we've left it at 75,000, and the only thing that's incurred is whatever we use.
So how much are we carrying over from
Yeah.
the last 2 years? Or
I'm
is there
just
any?
going to pull that up for you.
Yeah, that's on one of those pages.
Well, there's no carryover, it just is,
Oh, it's just-
it stays in last year's budget, right. So it's
Right.
not like it adds to this year's.
Right.
We
Right.
start over again every year.
So it still is required to be shown, you still have to have revenue to offset that. So when it's not spent, you're basically adding that then into reserves. And in other budgets, we roll that to the next year. That's what you were referring to. And I can pull up that right now.
And Stephanie, so that line item obviously didn't get spent down.
We spent 30,000 in 2022 and 28,317 in 2023 and nothing in 24.
So in my feeble mind, I'm thinking, well, that means that we have budgeted money that hasn't been spent. Where is it?
It stays in the general fund.
Yeah,
And
okay.
so, just like we say with departmental budgets, we cut out that excess so you can use it to budget for something
Sure,
else. But,
sure.
yeah,
But we
I
don't,
mean,
it's not
it's not earmarked, it's not done anything.
carried
unless-
over.
Nope, not unless.
So if we
there's
approve
actually
him
do something.
75,000, he didn't use it at all, it stays in the city's budget?
Say it again. I couldn't
Right.
hear over them.
So if, let's say we gave him 75,000, he doesn't tear any houses down, really, they don't get any money unless you use it.
Right.
And we get to keep it as a city.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So the only thing, so here comes my conservative hat for you. Keep in mind, when you're budgeting funds that don't get used, you're cutting something elsewhere to make room for that item that's not getting used.
Well, would it be fair then to lower that amount, Terry? I mean, it obviously, we're optimistic, but would it be fair to cut it back to 50 instead of 75?
If you do, I hope, I'm working on a couple others, and I'm hope that they come through, but you just don't know.
Right.
Here's part of the problem. I've tried, the one of them that I did get, I spent about $15,000 for. I've bid on some at 30,000, and somebody's bought them and fixed them back up somewhat. So, that price keeps going up, and I think we all know where that's at today, right? So,
I would hope every year you use this, but our track record is we haven't at this point, and I
Right.
know you're out there diligently trying to get this accomplished. One thing I think for the council that we can maybe take under consideration when we get to the end is maybe 50,000, and then if Terry comes back and says we need more, that's part of the contingency that we have to make for sure that we have in place. So I don't think we're ever going to say no, but that is under the circumstances that we are, we might need the 25, and then hopefully he goes over it. So
one
Not
thing.
saying that that is exactly what we need to do, but maybe we can just take that under advisement.
And just for council's consideration, depending on how, I doubt that the full 75,000 is going to be spent before the end of the year. You could also do that as a supplemental appropriation next year, if you're needing to find those funds elsewhere.
Terry, can someone, a private person, come to you and say, I want this house removed so I can build something nicer?
Never have. I mean, if it's a dilapidated house and somebody's going to put a new house there, it doesn't matter whether it's us or somebody else.
Well, because
You know,
I'm saying
because-
you have to pay the dump fees, I guess.
Right, exactly. Yeah, our goal is it's no different than the governor's homes we're building right now. We don't have to actually manage those. We've got carpenters or contractors that are handling, placing them down. We buy the house, and then they take care of the rest of it.
So if someone did come to you and said, hey, I want to build a new house, I can't afford the dump fees, would Mahi cover it? Would you be willing to?
I just have to look at it. It depends on their income level. The house we're putting in there is income required. A governor's house, you have to be under a certain limitation. They'd have to qualify.
So if they met all your requirements, you'd at least consider it?
We'd consider it.
Okay.
Sure.
That's fair.
Our goal is to get more housing, and that's what we're after. Questions? Two more things. If you haven't driven by the Ridgeview development across from the hospital, the dirt's moving. I was out there today, and it was moving literally. And so they're going at it, and by the end of next week, they're going to have a lot of work done. The other thing, as a reminder that we're doing the home rehab grants on another subject, I've got the numbers from the last 2 years, this year and last year, and we will have invested in 27 low-income homes and invested $550,000, making them livable so that they can continue living in their homes. So, and those are all, there's some local grants, but that's all grant money coming into Mitchell to do that. And I have to give Jerry Beck a lot of credit for working through those grants, so.
And that apartment over by Menards, its first floor's almost done, it looks like.
That's right.
Getting framed up.
That's right. So we have some things going. All right, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so what do we
I-
want to?
I'd feel pretty comfortable with a $50,000 number and then kind of see where it's at. Because the other thing we could do is look at the dump fee for that specific organization as they're demoing a house, right? That we're essentially taking from Peter to pay Paul. And so if that's the case, then that's something we could consider waiving as well.
And I think the reason why this originally started is because Public Works didn't want to get into waiving fees because it is an enterprise fund, so they wanted to show the revenue offsetting their costs. I know, though, in the previous years, you guys did approve other expenses beyond just the dump fees. So, you might want that flexibility still there in the future.
Correct. And I do believe this would be general fund dollars reimbursing an enterprise fund.
So they are two separate pots of money. It's not really the same since general fund is coming in from taxes. Peter and Jane.
So everybody's good with 50 or?
So the money that we gave them last year, or set aside, it never actually got used, is that correct?
It has
Okay.
not yet.
Okay, cool.
None of it.
No, yeah, nothing.
Zero.
They still have time.
75,000.
Yeah, and when we get toward the end of the year and Terry can come in and give us an update, and then if we've got money left over for 24, then we can take a look at it, rolling it over to 25.
All right, move on to Mitchell Area Historical Society.
And this one would be a new request, so there isn't historical funding to report.
What's the purpose of the money?
You can
Yeah,
have them come up, but they did have some repair work
Yeah.
that they requested assistance with.
Chuck Oster. I'm the Vice President of the Mitchell Area Historical, or the Carnegie Resource Center, Mitchell Geological, the whole grouping under one title there under Carnegie Resource Center. The purpose of the funding is to replace a boiler that may blow up on us when we try and start it this fall. We do not know. Part of the reason, and that picture, when you go back there,
This one?
that picture right there is a good explanation. The boiler, when we try and start it this fall, we do not know. Part of the reason, and that picture, when you go back there, that picture right there is a good explanation. The boiler, when we try and start it this fall, we do not know. Part of the reason, and that picture right there is a good explanation. I would like to go back and repeat some of the stuff that happened in the past. Sometime in the past, they decided the water coming off the roof of the Carnegie was affecting the basement. So they spent a lot of money, and with some help from the city, put in a drain collection point in the back of our property. Now, could you go back to that particular picture again? No. They keep going. That one right there. Where that is circled, that is a pool of water that is part of where the water has come up out of the drainage system from the drain going down Raleigh Street. In other words, they put a catch basin in that tied into the main drain of the city, and the water was so deep and so heavy that it came up out of that hole, came across the backside of the Carnegie, and went down the steps, which basically line up with that little white building to your right. Anyway, to the right is a stairway, and the water in that stairway was over 4 feet deep. We ended up with 17 inches of water in the basement in the boiler room. So the boiler was in water. Now, without going into more explanation if somebody wants to, this is the third time we've had an issue with water, particularly 2 times in the last 4 years where we've had a rain event of more than 2 or 3 inches coming down in a very short period of time. This last time, of course, was to the tune of about 10 inches of rain. And if you drive down 3rd Street and look at the Carnegie and look and see where the first step is going up the steps, the water was literally that deep. The water coming down 3rd Street, Raleigh was meeting, and it was that deep in the front of the building, which caused that to happen at the back of the building. The last time water was in there, we had 9 inches of water in the basement. The only thing that saves us a lot is we have another door on the inside that seals up pretty good, and we only ended up with that 17 inches in the boiler room. The rest of it only had about 2 to 4 inches in it. So we come out of that pretty good comparison-wise. So the reason that we need to replace the boiler is because we have an issue with drainage around the building that we really can't do anything about. The problem, if I can put it bluntly, would be that the city drainage system is not adequate to drain the water coming off of 3rd Street and down Raleigh Street to get it away from our buildings. That's the simple thing. We can see that on that picture, but we actually had it live because it is a camera that we operate back there. So that's a quick explanation of why we are putting in for this. I would tell you, as a basis, we have no paid employees in our facility. Strictly all volunteers. All the cleanup comes under what we can accomplish and try and get ahead of. And we have spent lots and lots of money on that building since it became part of our system in 2006. We've literally spent over $300,000 repairing and improving that building. And we felt at this time, since we had an emergency, this would be a time to ask you folks for help.
Where has that money come from that you've used, the $300,000? Where has that money come from?
That money has come primarily from generous folks that support us with donations. We have a fund that we work on or work with that was donated to us by a gentleman, and matching money that he has challenged us with, and people have come through with that as we have needed it. It's not comfortable, and if we take that money away from what we have in reserve right now, it makes annual payments difficult. When we're dealing with electricity bills, $1,200 to $1,400 in the summer, $900 in the winter. We have water bills, of course, to go along with that. It costs us a lot of money just to keep the doors open and keep us going in there. And again, we do not have any paid employees. This is strictly all voluntary hours. One of the things, just to kind of give you a little laugh in this whole thing, if it were, how many of you know when the first U.S. Post Office was established in Mitchell?
It was before your time.
December 15th, 1879, the first official U.S. post office was established in Mitchell. It was located on Main Street at about 115 North Main. In other words, it's in the parking lot now between the buildings that are sitting there, but that's about where it was located. Mitchell became, shall we say, a village in 1881 and became a certified city, so to speak, in 1883. So keep those numbers in mind as we're looking forward. We're coming up on 150 years old in the city of Mitchell.
So one more question, Chuck. Is this a one-time ask then? Is that what this is just a one-time ask?
I think most
long
of
as
us
you
would
don't
like
flood
to
again,
say that
right?
would be great if we could get by with that, but I would say that I would always like to have the option to be able to come back and ask if we have something that is out of the ordinary. We hope to be able to survive without that otherwise, but if it's something out of the ordinary, I would ask that you would consider that in the future as well.
So I do know that if those boilers get wet, like in a flood, those gas valves are automatically like out of, they can never be inspected again. So they can't be used because they could blow up. They really could. The only other question I would have is if you replace them, are they going to be the on-the-wall units? So if you do get water in the basement again, they're not going to get ruined.
My understanding with talking with Dana from Cromer Plumbing, I think it's in your paperwork there as far as some
Can you pull up that
information.
model number, Stephanie, just to, I mean,
And it
Just
is
so we all
set
have
up on
information.
standards so that it would not be that close to the floor. We're going to have to redo a lot of the venting and the piping in order to get it functional as you're describing. So it will not be sitting on the floor, to answer the question simply.
so just in case you flood again, it's not going
Right.
to ruin it? Okay.
So did you guys have insurance?
Insurance won't cover
We
flooding.
have insurance, but not that would cover water damage like that. We have primarily insurance that covers
Did you check with FEMA?
we have in fact.
What did they say?
At this point, it's just like all FEMA and government operations, it's kind of slow going, and we haven't got an answer back from them yet. We're checking our options, folks. We really are, but we just don't know where we're at. And we have fears that when we turn the boiler on this winter, that it's not going to be good.
And yet you have not tried the boiler yet. You first,
I would say the answer is we have tried it. It started, it went and functioned. We just don't know how much damage would have been internally. We have some pictures as well that show the water up into the electrical conduit on the wall. That's the unit that's in
Yeah,
there right there.
Right there, that's your gas valve. I'm a little bit of a boiler expert. So this right here is your gas valve.
And that was not functional after the water.
If that gets wet, it could rust that because it's a very fine thing, and then what happens is that gas valve just,
And the electrical on the wall on the right-hand side there, the water was up to that top electrical conduit line, and that's 17 inches deep. If anybody cares to see the damage inside the building, we didn't clean it all off as far as the water levels, so it's pretty easy to verify what the water levels were at. Anything else? Very much appreciate your consideration. Hopefully we can make this work, and we don't like to make this regular, but it was kind of important this time.
Do you think, one more question there, Mr. Rosen. Do you think if we, I don't want to be the bad guy here, but I'll say it, if we did 25,000, do you think you could match us to put the new boiler in so it's done? Because we're coming up on winter. I don't want to see you wait and then you're back here because we're willing to give you the 25.
The best way I can answer that is we have managed to make it work so far. Sometimes it's not fun, and it puts in a lot of pressure on those of us, very small in number, that are trying to make this work. But we have been able to make it work. We will continue to make it work if it's all possible. That fair enough answer?
Yes.
Yeah, I have another one for you. So I'm just thinking about, this is a historic building. I'm sure you've looked at grants and other places that you might find alternative funding for something like this.
Not like on this particular one, the timing does not work. We have got grants from like Deadwood and a few other places as well as we've been going along. I've been around since about 2018, so I'm kind of new to the whole thing, but we ended up doing a lot, and I physically put lots and lots of hours into that place trying to get it usable on a regular basis. if you've not been in there, we always encourage people to come visit. I would, just for your information, good or bad, it may hurt us, but I don't think so, is your Corn Palace folks are very good about sending visitors down to us, and that does help what we're doing. We get bus tours that we have now on a regular schedule that come in, and it's always good for some donations. It's just, most donations barely pay a light bill, for example. So it's one of those things we just barely get by most of the time. But we try to get anything we can get into, yes.
Thanks.
Good enough?
Any other questions?
Thank you, folks.
One for Stephanie. What is our current contingency, 24? I know it's not a lot, but what do we have left?
Less than 15,000.
Oh, okay.
Now granted, as we get closer to the end of the year and actual budgets are closer, but I mean, if you just looked at what we need that are outside of the budget, we have less than 15,000 left.
And nobody's really going to have an answer until November anyway, right?
I'm going to follow up with Jeff's suggestion that maybe we meet them halfway. This is a, Mike, sorry. What? What did I say, Jeff? Sorry, couldn't remember what you said. I thought you were the one that said, okay, Mike, sorry. Sorry, I must have been drifting off when you said. Okay, so Mike's suggestion. This is a new request, and so, you know, historically, we haven't always funded new requests, so. But I'm just thinking where this is, I mean, you know, it's a viable and important, I feel like it's an important request, but so often when we have something like this, we ask for skin in the game. That's kind of our terminology. So I would recommend that we do the 25,000 with a request that they meet us halfway. That would be a suggestion. Sorry, Mike.
No, that's fine. I agree with you, and I guess I agree. I mean, I'm not a history buff, but I've been in there. It's a neat place. It really is. And I guess that's a challenge out to you folks to meet us halfway. And not to say you couldn't come back next year to meet us halfway again.
Is everybody okay with, start with the 25?
I'm good with 25.
All right, next one. Next would be ACT, Area Community Theater for 85,000.
This is also a new request, so I don't have any historical funding to report.
All right, tell us what you need it for.
So we need the 85,000. Roof is in need of repair. We've managed to kind of Band-Aid it through the years. The last storm that we had kind of furthered that it needs to happen. There's been a leak that got worse, ended up taking out some lighting, ceiling tiles, leaked onto the stage. So we've been in that building 19 years now. So it's getting to the point where it needs to happen for the longevity of that building.
You know, along the same lines as the previous applicant, if we were to meet you halfway, do you think you guys could come up with funding for the other half?
I think we can. Since 2022, we've been doing our Save Our Stage fundraising. We've raised $60,000 since then. We have a long-term goal. We quoted a full renovation of that theater, including new space in the back in the second story. It's an ambitious project, but there's multiple stages. So the fact that we've been able to raise $60,000 since that effort has started, I think we could absolutely meet halfway.
And the problems with your roof is not insured?
It's just in need of repair. We've fixed separate spots. It's got the rock roof on top. So we're in it substantially anyway to fix potential areas or to find those areas. So at the point of investment that far, we might as well replace the entire roof.
No, they're saying they can't hear you.
Heard a few people say they can't hear you or Mike. Make sure your mic's turned on. Thank you.
So you've attempted to turn in an insurance claim to get this roof fixed or not?
I think it's a flat roof
Yeah,
with
they're-
the rock on the top, and I don't think,
I think,
They're the-
Insure that?
so John, I think the roof is at the end of its life cycle.
And it's uninsurable?
Well, no, I'm
That's
saying
my
that like,
question.
this was already, so, just a slight background, I was on the theater board, a number of years ago, and in my time there, we did 2 different roof projects to extend the shelf life of that roof. And I think at this point, the water damage escalated it a little bit, but it was already at a point where the roof needed to be replaced as a part of the life cycle of the building.
yeah, the insurance would only cover if it was like a damage. It's just old.
Are you going back with the same type of roof, or are you switching to a sloped roof, or what are you doing?
I think the quote is to do the same. So reuse the rock or any of the existing materials that we can to cut some of the costs, which is on, I think, the proposal sheet.
Because the Methodist Church downtown here had this same issue. We switched to a steel roof, and I believe they have never touched it again.
Okay.
So I would definitely, maybe it's too costly. Really.
Did you just do steel flat over the top, or did you have to put a pitch on it?
They put a pitch on it. Sean.
Yeah.
By the way, could you introduce yourself?
I'm Noah Arns. I'm the vice president of the board at Mitchell ACT.
You guys own the building, correct? Or
It's a city building.
I think you guys own it. We did the rate to, I got the contract, that's what I wondered. I think you got it for $1.
It is the,
Is it?
if they dissolve, it reverts back to the city
Yeah.
upon their entity
Yeah.
not existing.
So I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked previously.
Yes.
So is this a one-time ask?
Yes, for this.
It's a one-time ask for this year?
This,
Okay.
but we're, for the most part, I mean, the Area Community Theater is a self-sustaining entity. We do our best to do our fundraising and keep our allocations and budget accordingly with what we have projected. Just this large project and undertaking to keep us on track to be able to give performances to the community. Next year, we'll be in the Masonic Temple in March as we work on our stage and get that ready. And so I think one-time ask for this, yes.
So what, did you say you had 60,000 raised already?
$60,000, yep, since 2022.
That's not for the roof, that's for other things in the building, right?
In kind of, we have everything staged out as far as the large goal for the theater. That projection quoted in 2022 was $1.2 million. And so we have kind of staged everything out as we can allow those allocations.
Someone messaged me and said the request states that they are going to the stage before the roof. I don't know if that's true.
The stage is already in process. We already have the
Okay.
funds for that.
Okay, gotcha.
So we're already going to be in construction, so if we can.
That's completely separate of this other.
If we can overlap our construction time to not have as much downtime in the theater, that would be ideal to knock them both out at the same time. Otherwise, we'll have to probably relocate a second time with the roof.
So this 85,000 is strictly roof repairs?
Yes.
What kind of roof would you repair? You were going to replace the roof with what? Another flat roof?
That's the quote.
Rubber, like a rubber roof, or you?
Same exact thing that's on it.
Okay, just check. I don't like flat roofs.
Well, I think we kind of set precedent with nonprofits. We just gave 50% sharing to the Historical Society. I don't know how we could treat somebody else any different.
And that building's over 40 years old, isn't it?
Yeah. And so
So it's probably at the end of its life cycle.
I'm-
I mean, in reality,
I'm
it's
unaware
probably
of-
lasted as long as
Yeah.
it was intended.
I'm unaware of any,
It's not that old?
No,
No, they remember the Blue Museum.
It would have been like in its 90s.
yeah, it was after we moved here and we've been here 30 years.
So the confusion
Okay,
is coming
that's almost
from,
40
in
years
your
ago.
application on the project summary, you listed the stage support. So I think that's where the question was coming from. In
Yeah.
the description, it's just for the roof, but in the summary, they talked about both.
yeah, that just as an ongoing project that we have allocated funds for already. Like I said, the reason that's in there is to cut down on our away time from our theater. If we can have the allocation for both, we can knock them both at the same time, hopefully.
So, United Way, Mitchell Area Charitable Foundation, you guys have tapped into those resources?
Yes, so we have quite a few grant applications in process currently, and we have a subcommittee that does all of our grant applications to keep anything like that rolling in on a yearly basis.
And then, so I'm confused on the application. So if you were asking for both projects, how much was for the stage and how much was for the roof? Because, you know, in the description, it was just for the roof, but then in the summary, it shows both. And you said you were looking for funding from both, for both projects?
No, the,
Was the 65 just for the roof?
yes, the 85s for the roof,
85, yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Do you have that bid, or is that just somebody giving you?
No, we have,
Is that attached in there, Stephanie?
I don't have that.
from CE Construction, we had an updated bid, a year apart. It is at $76,354.58, and that was increased from the year we had it bid, I believe, by about $5,000. So $5,000 year-over-year increase in material and cost.
So will you be rebidding it or just going with that?
That's just the current proposal bid that we have. We could certainly look into other bid.
I think I'll, just like Dan, go with his recommendation. I guess we're challenging them to come up with 50% one time. And it's a building right close to us, and they do a great job with what they're offering here in Mitchell. So I'm fine with 42.5. But again, nothing's final till we get to the finish line, but at least we'd be challenging them and not handing them over 100% of the funds.
I'm good with that also, but, and I was just talking here with Mike, and I would recommend you want to look for another bid.
Okay.
Things have drastically changed in the last couple months, and numbers, people are getting pretty aggressive, pretty hungry. So
All right.
I think you can get a better number is what I'm trying to get at.
And have another fundraiser. I had a lot of fun at that last one.
Could you do that and then also maybe look at the pitched roof as an alternative?
Absolutely.
And either get it to Mayor Hansen or myself and
Yeah,
let us know.
we can certainly do that. Thank you.
Next is Casa for 26.5.
I'll pull up the historical one for this. Although they didn't get funding last year, they had got it in previous years. So here you can see in 2016 was 5,000, then 4,000, 4,000, 3,000, 3,000, 2250, back up to 3,000 in 22, and then nothing in 23 or 24.
Wasn't the reason because we didn't have their application?
It was
or
not
something?
received by the deadline, I believe,
No,
last
that was
year.
Big Friend, Little Friend.
Oh, that was Big Friend, Little Friend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's true.
What about the big increases? Is there
Yeah, there's
You wanna come up
Jackie's
here?
back there. Come on up. She was.
Hello, I'm Jackie Horton, and I'm the Executive Director for First Circuit CASA. And the big increase was just, I know last year we were made fun of for asking for $2,000. So I thought, might as well go big or go home. So I asked for the 26.5, and the 26.5 makes up for the money we've been reduced every year since you started funding us. And the number of children needing care, like in 2022, we advocated for 106 kids. In 2023, that number was 85, and already this year, it's 81 children. But the reality is, the funding to help these kids continues to be depleted. So then I kind of looked at the city funding. So when I first started with CASA in 2011, we didn't get money from any counties or any cities. So I started going and meeting with the county commissioners, and the first ones to step up in 2012 was Hanson County, and they gave $1,000. And then between 2013 and 2015, we averaged $5,500 from 5 counties. And then in 2016 was our first approach to the city of Mitchell, and we were awarded $5,000. But however, over the years, the amount of money we're getting from the city of Mitchell steadily decreases, and I think it was up there. But, I mean, it was reduced by $1,000 in 21 and 22, another $750 in 23 and 24, and then, 21 and 22. 2017, it was reduced by $1,000. 21 and 22, cut by $750. And then unfortunately, in 23 and 24, we didn't receive funding. And yes, I was not here last year, but it was not a mandatory meeting like it was last year or this year, and so that's why I wasn't here. I was sitting at my office working. So in 2016, when you provided us the $5,000, we had 38 volunteers contributing 941 hours to 68 children. And as of today, like I said, we've already helped 81. So the children in your community that are abused and neglected through no fault of their own, but because they have parents who abuse and neglect them, they need your help. And so that's why I'm here today to ask the city to help cover our funding shortfall from 2017 to 2024, which is the $26,500. And if you don't do it, what happens? What happens to these kids? They stay in foster care longer. They move more often. They're separated from their siblings. Without a CASA, they face greater academic and behavioral challenges. And the parents, they also lose crucial assistance with transportation, food, and housing. So the critical question becomes, who do we make wait for a CASA? As the executive director with no funding, who waits? The child that's 5 and born or addicted to meth and is now in residential care because of it? Or the teenager who's about to age out of the system and face life on their own? Who doesn't get a CASA? I don't want to have to make that decision because the funding's not there. So I ask for your support and be happy to answer any questions.
Jackie?
Yes.
Okay, so the CASA, they're volunteers that are working with the kids, is that correct?
Correct.
So tell me when you, like, I'm looking here, what's your annual expenditures?
Our annual budget this year is like $490,000.
That's what I'm seeing. Okay, so I guess my question is, I'm sure that there's administrative fees, right?
Yep.
Are the volunteers given money? Are the families given money? I'm wondering where that $500,000, how that gets.
Well, it's all laid out in the financials that were provided.
Yeah, I just thought I'd.
Yep, so, I mean, yeah, there is there's salary, we have an office, there's rent, there's utilities. The volunteers, their time is volunteered, but we have volunteers that travel to Rapid City once a month to see kids. They get mileage reimbursement. If the volunteers want to take the kids out for dinner, that's reimbursed. If they want to take them to a Canaries game, that's reimbursed.
Okay.
So that's where those expenses come from.
Isn't there some lawyer fees to like advocate for these kids in court too, or is that? am I-
We don't pay that, that's the
Oh,
county.
Okay. Sorry, get my stuff. I read a lot of reports.
So what are the other counties giving you?
Yeah.
So it's like, from all of the other counties this year, it was $15,000.
Your CASA's Got Talent has really made a name for itself, so that's
Yeah.
exciting. You're raising over $67,000. That's a great event.
Jackie, on the surface, it's, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounded like, you know, we didn't get what we should have over the last 7 or 8 years, so we want to make it up. We want to play catch-up.
Well, I mean,
How did you survive without the money in 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22?
we survived because there was money in reserves. But this year, we get money from the federal government. Our biggest source of grants has been the Victims of Crime Assistance. We call it the VOCA grant. That money comes to the state of South Dakota from the federal government. And I don't know if Colleen's going to talk about this here in a little bit or not. But that grant this year, we were cut on July 1st by $100,000.
From what?
The Victims of Crime Assistance, or the VOCA grant, the state of South Dakota.
$100,000 was cut from a total of what?
We asked for, I think it was, last year, I mean, it tells, like last year it was $202,230. We knew we were going to receive a cut, so we asked them for 182, hoping to get maybe 150, and we got 77,000.
So in 2023, it was 253?
Yeah. So every year, that pot of money keeps going down. So we've got to find a way to offset that. And the board's done some different things with our investments. Those have been realigned through Dice Financial. Jacqueline's our consultant on that.
Can you put the historical thing up again, please?
Starting in 2016.
Are there any other municipalities that are giving you money besides Mitchell? You say that you're getting money from these 5 counties, that about $1,000 each?
We do, and then we also get from some of the cities.
Okay, and can you tell me what the cities are giving?
I don't have that information with me, but I can email it to you as soon as I get back to the office. I know Parkston does, I believe Plankington does, and I think Armour does. But I would need to look to give you factual information.
And you don't remember exactly how much they're giving?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't know how much you guys decided to give it to, but I do like CASA. It's like one of my personal favorite things to give to, because the kids are the important thing, right? You got to catch them young before life spirals out of control. So you'll see me at a lot of events, CASA. I still have to buy my ticket for CASA's Got Talent. I got
Better
to
hurry
see-
up, because there's only 5 tables remaining.
Okay, email me tonight so I don't forget. But last year was a great time. I went to the other stuff, so.
I guess in all honesty, I mean, I made the ask for 26.5, but I'd walk away here tonight happy with $5,000.
I'm with Jordan. We don't want to wait. I really appreciate what you do. We don't want to wait till these kids are adults and then address it again, because that's what we're going to do if we don't help them.
Exactly. The kids are the one people that need the most help in our community.
It's not their fault.
And they got really no way of defending themselves.
She's happy with 5,000, I'm happy with giving her 5,000.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You okay with that? Next, we'll go to Dakota Counseling, 26,250.
This one does have historical funding. So you can, we'll go back, ways here. Okay, so it looks like you were at 62,000 until 2017. It went to 50,000, then down to 40,000, 35, 26,250. 2023, you reduced it to 13,000, and it's been at that level in both 23 and 24. This year, the request is for 26,250.
So last year we gave him 13.
Good evening, Michelle Carpenter, Dakota Counseling Institute.
Can you just tell us what the funds are going to be used for?
Yes, we utilize these dollars to help maintain our 24/7 crisis services. This is so that we can have professionals available 24/7, regardless whether we're doing consultation in the hospital, the jail, the police department, people's homes. We do have a small contract through the state of South Dakota that does try to help with some of those funds. But in our reporting, last year we provided a little over $58,000 worth of services that we were not reimbursed for because there's not a funding stream to bill those out, and we're a fee-for-service facility. Just to pay on-call master's level qualified mental health professionals, our stipend costs $37,000 a year. So for us to provide the level of on-call that we're providing right now, it's costing around $100,000 with other incidentals. So we're just asking for a little bit to help offset that, to help in our emergency services.
Michelle, how do the police department and you interact, or how are you involved with the police department?
So if someone's experiencing a behavioral health crisis, they can call our direct on-call line, which is available 24/7 through, right now it's being answered by our Stepping Stones facility. If we find that someone on the other line is a danger to themselves, we, you know, if they come in willingly, we try to work with them, but if we really have concerns, then we reach out to the police department. Sometimes the police department's who reaches out to us first, because they may have contact with them first, and then we have them evaluated.
Michelle, I just have a question. This might be just an error, but it shows the city didn't have any funding for you in '23.
Oh, dear.
We did fund you.
You did, and that is an error, and I'm really sorry that we didn't catch that in the fiscal.
I just noticed it.
Yeah, my apologies on that. Yes, that should have displayed, I believe, half of 26, 13, okay. Your year's, I think, the same as mine, isn't it? Your calendar? Calendar, me too, yep. So my apologies on that. It would be in the other funding.
Shows you have a pretty healthy cash balance. Do you guys have a plan for that?
Well,
A little over $2 million.
yes, and as a nonprofit, we're allowed to have 6 months of reserves.
Is that what that is?
Our budget is 9 million, so I'm less than
Oh, yeah.
less
So
than
you're like a
3
quarter?
million. Yes, and some of those funds that we do have in reserves right now is an extension of the COVID dollars that will be expended by the end of this calendar year as we are expanding to our new crisis facility.
And then how many, you want to talk about that new facility you're going to do? You're going to bring like 4 beds or something?
We are, and, you know, I didn't really consider that in this request because I don't really know what I need there yet. We were able to secure a grant through the state of South Dakota, secure other grants like through Avera Queen of Peace, community funding, and then utilizing some of those COVID dollars for the capital to just about 1.1 million. But what we're doing is remodeling that facility. We will have a wing of offices at this time, psychiatric med providers. The other wing will be 4 24-hour beds for adults. So right now, if someone's having that behavioral health crisis and the PD, agrees that we all feel that the person is a harm to themselves, they're being held in the jail. And it's really criminalizing of behavioral health. So this will be classified as an appropriate regional facility. Right now, there is one open in Yankton, Watertown, and then Rapid City and Sioux Falls have them as well, but our model will be obviously a lot more like Watertown and Yankton. So it really is kind of a new thing. And so, yeah, we hope to be up and running in December, but we will have people available 24/7, whether the police department feels that there's someone appropriate to bring to the facility to be held. Somebody presents at one of our facilities, somebody calls on the phone, somebody walks in the door. Hopefully, we can keep them there, keep them safe, evaluate them to see, do we really need that long-term hospitalization or displacement? Or are we able to give them the coping skills, resources, and keep them here in the community and safe?
And then I did a tour of your guys' facilities a couple months ago, and then, I don't know if I'm allowed to share this number, but you told me the number of people that you guys serve in a community. It's a pretty substantial number. Do you know what that number is off the top of your head or around what it is?
Sure. Between all of our services, adults, children, mental health, drug and alcohol, assisted living, low-income housing, we probably have just short of 2,000 clients open at this time.
It's like a big number. It's like
And-
15% of our whole
And
community.
I would say, right now, probably 80% of our funding is state and Medicaid funding. So we do get reimbursed for services, but those rates are set by the legislature, set by historical costs. They were very kind to us last year, which was helpful, but we're always playing catch-up, and the majority of our costs, probably 80+% of our costs are staff and benefits.
What is the percentage of your clients? A lot of them aren't from Mitchell, aren't they? They're in other counties and in the state?
So behavioral health-wise, I'm going to say that almost all of them are. If you're referring to the people who do come to treatment, well, no, they would be included in there. But if you're referring to those, there's times we have probably an average of, I'm going to say 43 people that are living at our Stepping Stones facility. A number of them are in our 3-7 residential program. There's only a couple others in the state that accept Medicaid and state contract. And then IMT program, we're one of 3 in the state. So yes, we do have other people that come to the community or come to that facility. They do have a funding source, though. They're not taking beds away from Mitchell residents, if that's kind of what you were referring to.
I think that's something that I don't think I'd realized before. So if you have someone from another county that isn't in our region, then that county would be paying you for that person's.
Actually, our state contract or their Medicaid program.
Okay.
So what happens is someone in Rapid City may do an assessment on someone and say they need this level of care, and then the state goes and says, who has a bed available? Maybe it's us, maybe it's Yankton. And then a lot of times they come across on the prison bus, for lack of better terminology, back and forth across the state. But there's limited beds in those levels of care for state and Medicaid patients. Insurance is different. I'm not saying there's not limited beds for insurance too, but.
Well, I'll make a recommendation. You guys can hop in anytime. I think personally, we stay with the existing number that's in the budget. And again, when we get closer to knowing what numbers we're actually looking at, we can take another peek at it. But it's in the budget right now, and so I'm recommending that we keep it at the 13.
Would it be helpful if we bumped it up to 15? I know it's not the full amount, but it would be a slight increase. It would, 13 is close to the 50% that we've been giving a lot of people.
I'm also where you're at, Jeff, at 13. Just, we're obviously jumping in with a few new entities this year and jumping on and adding them to it. And I'd like to see us stay at the same number then. Just currently we're trying to spread things as much as we can, and I think everything does help. And I think I would prefer staying at our number for the time being and seeing where we're at here in a couple months, but try to satisfy a few of these other ones too yet, so.
Michelle, I have a question for you. It's kind of the same question I asked you last year.
You're trying to trick me to see if I give you a different answer, aren't you?
No.
Dang,
I
where's
think-
my notes?
I'm strictly talking stepping stones. What would you say your, I don't like this word, but success rate is? Like, do they come back?
I am going to answer you the same as I did last year. Success is different for every single person. If somebody has been drinking every day for 20 years and they stay sober for a week, was that success? Or did we add years to their life? Do they come back? Absolutely. We have people that will discharge and say, I'm fine, I don't need to be here anymore. And they call us in 2 days and say, can I please come back for detox? And they walk in and we take them back. Success rate, I'm going to say, is probably 50%. And I think if you look across at the national norms for addictions, that's going to be a good rate. But
You're-
okay, thank you.
So what are we good at then? Our 213 is 150.
14.
Well, the other thing I want to just throw out there is, I hope we save some time at the end of this evening so we can go through and see what we're going to, maybe, what we're going to cut, because these are very difficult decisions. And so, it's, we're taking playground equipment away, or we're taking a police car away, or something's going to have to go. So I just want to keep that in mind as we step through this.
We got a grant for the playground equipment, so let's not cut that one. It's
Perfect.
free money.
Okay, that was just an example.
I know.
There is no
Right now-
such thing as free money.
Yeah,
And
Well,
right now, keep
you're right.
at 13, we currently got to make up 47.5 somewhere else, because that's what we've already went over top of our 301.
47,500?
Yep. So, we got to find that someplace else if we continue with the same numbers as last year.
And the other thing is, as Dan brought up the last time, is we don't like to throw new projects in, but the way that the state baseball tournament lands, that we do not have a tournament next year, if we're ever going to improve the field, next year is the time. So I'm fully in support of the infield for Cadwell. So to me, no, it is not. And that number, again,
350 plus another 275 today. That we're going to talk about later, so it's 350
So almost
plus another.
600,000.
Yeah.
All right.
What number do you want to stick in there? 13.
Is everyone okay with 13,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Safe place of South, Eastern South Dakota, 20,000.
Yeah, I will say that I've talked to a lot of people that own businesses and just regular people, and everyone's having to make cuts this year. Everyone.
So I'll go through the historical.
Almost everyone.
You can see we're at 2,500 until 2013. We started at 3,000, up to 2015, we went up to 5, back down to 4,500 in 17, 18, 19, 20, down to 3375. I think that was the bad COVID year. 2022 is 4,500. And then last, 23 and 24 were both at 20,000. The city is currently acting as a pass-through for their grant and their construction of their facility.
I think there's a reason we made that big jump.
Right.
I can't remember what
It was because of their building project. So is the building, is someone here to talk about? Is the building project now fully funded?
Colleen Hoffman, Executive Director of Safe Place. I'm also going to bring up Teresa Burnt because I want to let you guys know that we function under two boards. The funding that we're asking for the city is for our operational, but if you have questions for the foundational side of things, Teresa can answer that for the building.
Yeah, this 20,000 is not part of the building. It's the daily, day-to-day, which is what we just learned last year, that it really wasn't for the building. I think one of the first numbers that went up in your historical was partly for the building. Last year, it was for daily operations, and this one's the same way. The building project is separate. There's some funding that we're trying to get in that campaign that would sustain, once we're in the new building, but this is completely just the operation side.
What do you all do as far as fundraising?
We have two major events each year. One is Not a Silent Night, which is in December. Another one is in March or April, which is Night at the Races. So we do fundraising. We work with donors throughout the year as well. We have sponsors that we connect with for some of the additional things we do. The campaign is, like I said, is different. We're doing some additional fundraising, but we also work for grants on both sides. Foundation looks for grants. In fact, I just submitted one today. And they also support through grants, which she can speak to more, that are being hugely cut at the federal and state level, which is why we are asking for
Who can
support.
get accepted in there? Is this just for the county, for the city? As I worked with it a couple years ago.
I mean, Safe Place overall?
Yes.
Safe
For
Place
Mitchell.
I'll let her talk, because that's her world.
Perfect.
So for the services, what we all cover and
Yes.
what we do. So we are family support services. So we cover our emergency shelter, which is anybody who's needing that emergency fleeing to come into the shelter. And then we have our 24-hour advocacy services.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but where can the people call from? Because I took some in
Yep.
that were from Montana. I mean.
Yeah, so we have our crisis hotline. So our crisis hotline is on our website, and if you call the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and they're looking for somewhere in the area, if they say Mitchell, they will give them our information, so we can see people coming and fleeing from other states as well and other counties.
And how much locally is it used?
It is more locally used, and we also added in 2022 law enforcement calls. So when law enforcement, through their DV assessment, at the end of that assessment, it is to contact the Safe Place and advocates, so someone can work with them directly, talk to the victim survivors so that they can finish their investigation.
You might have touched base on this, but how much is the state of South Dakota funding you?
We have lost our funding cuts for our state. There's 2 years that we have seen a loss of funding, and they're saying too with our VOCA funding, which is the Victims of Crime, that covers our emergency services. So that grant is restricted to those type of services. We're looking for grants that have some of that unrestricted, which would be the city to help with those emergency services. So VOCA funding, we have lost 1 year. It was, I don't have the exact numbers, but 1 year it was 42,000, and then another year was 32. And we keep seeing that decrease in funding.
Thank you.
Will you guys be selling your other location, or are you gonna hold on?
We will be selling.
Maybe you said, but how many different counties do you guys support?
We now service 9. In April 2024, the Board of Directors had agreed to add a 9th county to our service area. And with the funding cuts, I should go back. Our shelter is okay, but our neighboring shelter in Chamberlain has to close their doors because of the funding cuts. So we will be seeing an increase of people coming from the Chamberlain area.
Any other questions? suggestions.
I do have another question. Do any other municipalities, as a part of their funding, fund you folks at all?
Yeah, we have city and county funding that's in our budget. I don't have it broken down, but we have received county funding from all of our counties except for McCook because they are new, but we do receive funding from those counties that we serve.
And cities?
Yes, from some of the cities. I don't have that, but yes, we do.
Yeah, I think that's important when you're servicing all of these communities. And I know a lot of times when Mitchell is, the base, that a lot of the responsibility seems to fall on us and we pay a much higher, amount proportionately to the other communities. And I really would be interested. I see that your utilities is $20,000. Is that kind of where you got this number, or is it just like it happens to be that?
That's what it happens to be at, but that's in our current facility. As you know, we'll be moving into our new
Right.
facility, which our costs will be going up.
How many beds are you adding?
So currently, we are at 27, and we'll be increasing 19 times. We'll be increasing around 40 that we can be able to do, and we're going to do ADA compliant rooms. So currently at this time, the only people that we're able to have in shelter are women and children, and our goal for our 2025 to be in that building is to be staffed 24 hours in-house and being able to serve other cultures, other diversity. So we hope to have male victims that we can have in our shelter instead of utilizing a hotel motel.
Can you bring back what we gave them in the past again? I didn't have my,
So the only increase to go from 20 was because of the building? Initially? And you said the building is not included in this year's request?
It might not have been included in their request, but I know that was council's discussion at the time.
initial one, 2023 was, and 24 was not, or it wasn't recommended for that, and then this year is not also, 2025. So I'm good with the 20 grand, staying with it. I personally am at.
I'm sitting here going through your statement, your financial statements, and I don't see the United Way here. How much are they giving you?
30,000.
30,000?
Yep. And that's primarily, we use the United Way services to support our Family Visitation Center services.
I don't know why I don't see it in here, but I believe you.
It's in there.
Is it?
Yeah.
Keep scrolling past it, and not seeing it, Viv.
Page 10 of 16, it's on there.
Well, I do appreciate the work that you guys do. I know how important it is, and so I too would be supportive of that 20.
Are you good with 20?
I think that I'm good with it. I would like to see the number come back down in future years, though. And so if we could lean on other municipalities as well to try and offset that, I think that would be a good, as we move into the future, goal.
Appreciate that, and the feedback too, we'll take the city and counties and do a breakdown so that you're able to see that instead of all in one.
Yeah, that would be really helpful. The 20,000 is really nice because we went from, as you know, from really low numbers and then did this big jump and now you're kind of coasting on that. But I with Tim would like to see if there was a way that we could make that more balanced among other municipalities that you're serving. Find a way, maybe you look at what percentage of people you're serving and where they're from and do kind of a spreadsheet that way. And then approach the cities where these people are coming from and counties and let them know, statistically, your percentage of this year's operations is this much. So we would like to see your, contribution be equivalent to that or at least in that same, neighborhood.
I agree, because we're all in it together. Thank you.
Yep.
Let's move on to Mitchell Main Street and beyond for 50,000.
So I'll show the historical up on the board again. It looks like you were at 30,000, 11 and 12. And then in 2013, you went to 42, then 43, 43. 2016, you went to 40, kind of all over the board. 2017, you were 35 until 2021, it got moved down to 26,250, then back up to 35, 35, and last year was at 40.
And I remember last year's subsidy meeting, it was, they were supposed to ask for more money this year because of fees. But I think we're working on a fee schedule too now. I don't know if you forwarded that on to those guys or not, but I just remember that conversation happened last year.
So, and actually, that's how you ended up, even up at the 40, was some of those costs, and then we allowed them to do one application for all of the year's events, so they only pay the fee one time versus, otherwise I think it was totaled over 10,000.
I think, I know we're not giving anybody more this year, it didn't seem like so far, but I think what they've done in the last 5 to 10 years is phenomenal. What they've taken in Mitchell Main Street and beyond, our first Fridays, they went from 0 to almost top notch. I do think the Corn Palace Plaza will just make this nothing but better in Main Street. Their events, I haven't seen one of them go sour. Everything's been good. We want to push people downtown, you got to spend money. If you want, First Friday started at First Thursdays every week, and there'd be 200 people here. Now we're growing to bigger, better. Tourists are coming down. I think this is one of the investments that pays dividends to the town.
Yeah, do you guys want to come up and talk a little bit about what you
I was
need the
thinking, I know
increase
that
for?
they put together a cost of what it would be if they had to pay all those fees, and I can't find it now.
It's okay, I have it right here for you.
perfect.
So I did break it down from last year's amounts, and that was going to be the $9,790. You were right, yep, you were right. So with that being said, we had requested to pay the one-time fee of $500, which made it be the $9,290.
Also, can you explain about the statues that are coming? Am I speaking out of line here?
No, you're okay.
Okay.
We're still we're working on doing a big grand reveal, but we'll keep it. So Hope, we have our first downtown sculpture getting installed in May. Hope is going to be 10 feet tall, and it's going to represent hope for our downtown. It pays really good respect to our heritage and our culture that represents our small town. And then we're
People don't know about it, they do now.
Yes. Yeah, so we kind of did a soft opening with it during the Woolworth Crumbled Apples tradition when we were helping keep that 65-year tradition alive. And we have been fundraising for that. That is being locally made by a blacksmith right here in our town that's nationally renowned. And it's going to be just amazing. It's going to be right down there at 5th and Main. We're working on having banners made that say, "Follow me" for the downtown historic walk and art walk. And then we're also starting the process on our second sculpture. That's going to be down there at Railroad and Main, while 3rd and Main, we finish that up as well. Hope that answers the question.
And so if we were to waive the fees and keep you at the same, would that be something that would be acceptable?
It would most likely work. It's still tight even this year. Like, we're not making money from our events. These are free community events. They are for the people. We do not make a profit. So the reason for the increase was to try to get bigger bands. We try to raise local money to keep local bands. We've had a lot of requests for bigger entertainment for Friday nights. Well, with that comes a ticket price, and then same with like inflatables and kid pedal pole. Those things cost money, and it's a lot to ask people to work with it. Inflatables can cost anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500 per first Friday. Kid pedal poles, trophies. We love our local trophy makers, but they do cost money, of course. And having it costs about $800 just to get a kid's pedal pole down here for a first Friday, for example. we want to keep elevating the First Fridays. They are getting more foot traffic. We want to bring that next level to it. We've been looking at bringing more adult activities to First Fridays, but that comes with a cost, or working with other small business owners up and down Main Street and how we elevate it and where we go from that.
Talk to us a little bit about the sponsorships.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have sponsorship. There is the diamond level for 1,000, platinum for 500, gold for 250, and silver for 100. And then we have like a bronze, that's a $50 level, because people want to be able to make an impact. And with every different level, you get different types of benefits. And it works well. We've been really gracious or thankful for the sponsors that we have had. But just like everyone kind of feels that across the board, sponsorship dollars are getting tighter. People are getting a little bit tighter with their money. There's a lot of nonprofits asking for sponsorship dollars right now in Mitchell, and we do our best to work with the companies. We do work out in-kind trades here and there where it seems fit and is a good thing for that business when we do those in-kind trades.
Is there any way to track how many out of town, I know that's really hard, but if there's any way to estimate or guess how many out of town people come for your events? I know Oktoberfest was another big event.
It was, yes.
The Wingapalooza is a big deal.
I can answer that. So we have tried doing things like that for like Ladies' Day Out, where when we had the punch cards, we would ask them, be like, hey, voluntarily, if you wouldn't mind filling this out, where are you from? What age group are you roughly? 50-50 if they filled it out or not, right? A lot of where we're getting people from is our smaller communities. We have a lot of good Mitchell attendance, don't get me wrong, but to the smaller communities, we are the big town. We're the fun place to come and shop and find that pair of shoes or that dress or have a cold one down on Main Street. We're the place. During First Fridays, asking people where they're from, we've had a wide span of like, hey, it was just like on a whim on their way to the Badlands. We get a lot of East Coasters or Southerners that are passing through and just like, we didn't know this was happening. This is cool. We wish our town did this. That is my best way to answer that. There used to be a program that we partnered with, and they would tell us like roughly how many people there was by pinging their cell phone. That contract ended about early summer, but that is a very expensive program, and we do not have the budget for that.
Well, I think that it's noteworthy that the events that you sponsor bring people from out of town who literally come to spend their money. So, and I appreciate that. I feel like that's a really important contribution. And so, yeah, I'm kind of with the question about the fee waiving and where should we meet you? Would 4,000 plus no fees, or?
If we did 40,000 plus no fees, we would be okay. We would make it happen, but we've been trying to elevate more events and more things like that. And to bring that next level, it would just be a little
Okay,
interesting.
then I'm going to recommend that we do 45,000.
I'd like to say the 40,000 and challenge them to get some bigger name sponsors. Because,
Can we sign you up, Mike?
So with that, with our sponsorships, we do offer, like, when you have one construction company, that their name is the one on that event. And with $1,000 being our top tier, then you have construction, you have a bank, you have different entities across town that help bring these events together.
I would support the 45, and then that still challenges them if they want to attend more, that they can go out and try to get more memberships or sponsorships or whatever, but I'd be willing to put another 5 toward it. And I think we're moving forward with the fee schedule. We just haven't had a chance to bring it back to council. Would that be a true statement, Mayor?
Yeah, I think we worked out a pretty good fee schedule. I'm not sure if we finished it or not.
Justin's got the numbers, he's just been gone for a week, so.
Oh, yeah.
That's fine, but-
And normally that we would be doing that in November when we do our rate resolution, so that's when you'll see it.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I'm
But it-
putting that one together, not even Justin, but we
I
have
don't-
it ready.
I don't think I'm talking out of school of saying that there's support for nonprofit because we waive everybody anyway.
Yeah, well, the new one's very fair, I think. You guys will decide that.
All right, so 45 sound right? I'm here.
Yes?
Everybody's good?
With fees waived?
All right, thank you. Next, we'll go to MADC, Mitchell Area Development Association. For $197,000.
Sorry. Okay. Here's the historical funding if you want to look back. It's ranged from 144 to 154, 153. It was 143 from 2017, 18, 19. You did approve an increase in 2020 to get it up to 167. It's been flat at that amount ever since. Last year, they did not request an increase. This year, they're requesting a $30,000 increase.
Who's going to represent MADC? I figured so.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions on your, it says you guys have a CD of $1 million and then another cash equivalent of $1.6 million. So you have about $2.6 million of liquid money, which is essentially over the last 10 years of subsidies sitting in your bank.
So I would
Just wonder what
say-
you're going to use those for.
So we're working on a industrial park, which you guys, I think, have heard us talk about that. We've applied for a Red Leg loan that's sponsored through Central Electric. That's a $2 million zero-interest loan that we would use for our new industrial park. Total cost for the industrial park is close to $3.5 million. So.
And how much financing are you going to get for that?
We're hoping for $2 million, zero-interest loan.
So you're going to put $1.5 million down?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking. Are you going to cash in your CD for that, or are you just going to use your cash and cash equivalent?
We have our CDs currently laddered, and then we look for them to keep them liquid. Our hope is that our other financing sources cash flow, such as TIFs and LIP grants and other things like that. So ideally, we'd like to keep the CDs and liquid cash there, but.
So if we don't get that $2 million zero-interest loan, we have to come up with the funding ourselves for the industrial park. So.
Can you just go to a bank and borrow money, though? I mean, you guys have a pretty solid balance sheet. I'm just wondering. What do we do for that?
So we would have to cash flow the payments for the infrastructure. So it'd be, I think the estimate's 2.5 million in infrastructure that goes in the ground. And so we'd have to cash flow that until we start selling lots, and you know how that goes.
So you are going to sell the lots, you're not gonna, or is that negotiable?
Well, the goal with the Economic Development Corporation, you know, we put in this industrial park, and it's to spur business. Our goal with this is to bring in distribution centers, something that would be new to our economy, something that wouldn't compete with our current businesses. And so we'd like to break even with it. We might make a little money. If the right business comes along, we'll probably lose a little money so we can give it away to bring that business in.
There's a loan on your books for $1.28 million. I couldn't find what that was for. Maybe I just wasn't reading enough. You guys have a very complicated financial statement.
The loans for 15th Avenue, the infrastructure we put in there.
Oh, gotcha.
For
Okay.
the new Echo building. That's a loan from Dakota Resources to pay for that.
The other question I had was, it says in 2013, you guys gave $100,000 to Avera for a forgivable loan, and you forgave $2,000 to every full-time job that was created after 2013. And then in 2022, there was $40,000 left, and then 2023, that was paid off? Or did they just hire another 20 people? I'm just wondering, I guess where I'm going with that is that offered to everyone in our community? Because it seems like a good program to increase jobs.
Historically, we have done it if somebody's going to bring workforce to town, new workforce, not just steal from Rob Peter to pay Paul. So yes, when Avera said they were bringing more jobs to town, we would give them a forgivable loan or training grant. And if they hire up to that amount, it's forgiven. That $40,000, they didn't hit that due to COVID and everything else. I mean, it was just 10 years of stuff. However, they were renting from us for the old verifications building, and there was some closing sort of stuff that loan was forgiven, the $40,000. Otherwise, we've, a telecom company in town, we've done training grants twice. They paid them off within a year, paid off, forgave. We've done them with other industries in town. In the 19 years I've been with Chamber, probably a handful of times. So if you're going to bring workforce to town, we'll definitely work with you.
Okay, nice.
And obviously, workforce is very important. Everybody's crying for employees. We know there's over 500 jobs waiting for people to come to town or more. Terry, what's the number? You guys probably know it too.
Second lowest unemployment in the state. South Dakota has the lowest unemployment in the nation. We've invested $50,000 into the workforce with our Move to Mitchell grant. We did 2 separate grants, giving away $1,000 to anybody that would move to Mitchell from out of state, plus Jerry Beck applied for a child care grant. We split that in half. 50% went to, or $50,000 went to newer expanding daycares, and the other $50,000, same thing as our other grant. We gave away $1,000 to anybody that would stay in child care. And so between those two, we've put $100,000 into workforce this last year.
And I don't know, Mike, if you want to, maybe with the new program that we're going to roll into that we talked last week at the meeting, that's another way of trying to retain people that move here.
Yep, we have a lot of job openings. Usually you talk about that unemployment number, you want it to be low, but ours is so low, we can't fill the jobs that we have, and so we struggle with some expansions. 80% of the expansions you're going to see in your community come from your existing businesses. We have to have the employees so they can expand. And so with that, that's the reason we've invested so much money into the workforce. We're unveiling another workforce program to move people into the community. We've allocated another $25,000. The board approved that at our last meeting last week, and so we have another $25,000. We're going to give it away in $100 increments. You don't have to come from out of state, though. We'll take you from the surrounding communities if you move here from Artesian. With that, we'll do a Welcome to Your Palace, kind of a coupon book for anybody that moves here that will have value. The goal there is to get people to come into our office so we can meet them. And what we're hearing, feedback from the people that have come in and got that $1,000, they talk about how great of a community Mitchell is. And through that 2040 study that you guys did, we need to work on being a more welcoming community. And I think we're achieving that now. We want to meet everybody that moves to the community, and that's the reason for the $100 giveaway. Anybody that moves here, we want to meet them, embrace them, get them the resources that they need when they come to the community, and then connect them, get them involved in, say, Kiwanis or Rotary. People are more likely to stay if they get involved in the community, and that's our goal.
Mike, I think I've asked you this before in the meeting. What is your success rate with the people staying that you give the $1,000 to?
The board has asked us to continue to work with those people. We have all of their information so that we can survey them. When the governor's office of economic development was here, I think 2 months ago, we did a panel discussion with them at Dakota Wesleyan. They asked us to put that together. We had 6 of those newcomers in that panel. And we asked them a lot of questions, you know, how was your experience moving to Mitchell? What was this experience compared to moving to other communities? Pat, the new soybean plant manager, he's moved to a lot of different communities, opening different soybean plants or operational plants. And he said, I've never been in a community that's been so welcoming with open arms. He's part of, Doreen Nelson runs our community concierge program. He's been involved in that program, and he said, this is just the best community I've ever moved to. And we've heard that repeatedly with the people that have been involved in that program and received the $1,000. There you go.
You really didn't answer my question, I guess. I'm just curious, is it 75% of those people stayed in our community, or is it 100%?
I haven't surveyed them yet. We just gave out our last $1,000 out of the 2 programs last month.
When will you survey them?
We started, sorry, go ahead.
So we didn't announce that the program was closed until we gave out that final $1,000. The money was allocated, but we have people that are moving here, they've accepted a job, they have a lease or a purchase agreement on a house. And so until that person shows up to the office and accepts the check, we don't say the program's closed in case, they lose their job or something changes, and we say, well, we gave out all of our money. Never mind, it's open again, we still have $1,000 left. And so that last $1,000 went out last month, and so we're just hitting 1 year. We actually started this program in October, and so we can survey those members now and say, after a year, what's the retention rate of the people that did move here? And I would guess, it's going to be fairly high, hopefully. I will tell one story, I like to tell stories. I ran into a young man that was outside of the Chamber Development office. I was on my way over to visit with Stephanie about something, and he had his little boy out there. And I said, hey, where are you guys from? He said, well, we just moved here from Florida. My wife's at a job interview. And I said, where are you going to live? And he said, well, we're going to move to Mount Vernon. We have family there. I said, well, if you get a lease agreement in Mitchell, I'll give you $1,000. And he kind of looked at me like, really? And 2 days later, he had a lease agreement to live in Mitchell, and we got 2 new employees at the back 40.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Great story.
Any other question for these folks?
So historically, you have been at 167 for how many years? 5? 5 years? With no increase?
Well, I went too far.
You never really explained what the increase was for, like you didn't.
Since 2020.
5 years.
And I did have that, what the increase was for pulled up earlier, but we didn't include it.
How many? I can take,
167, and if I am 28 passes, which these guys will.
it'll be 0, right?
We'll give them the extra 30.
I won't campaign here, but I'll let everybody
Passes,
know
then
the reason.
Nobody will get anything.
I mean, if it fails, then we'll have the extra money.
I won't campaign, but I will let everybody know that we have 100-yard signs over at our office, so please come over and grab one from us.
What impact is there if we don't give you an extra 30,000?
The extra 30,000 that I've asked for, 10,000 I've asked for. We have a great relationship with the Governor's Office of Economic Development. They go out and visit with site selectors in other cities. This is something that they've been doing for years. And what they found is when they have relationships with site selectors, and what I'm talking about when you try and relocate or try and land a Google or an Amazon shipping center, they have site selectors. Google doesn't come out and look at those sites. They use site selectors that pick those sites. And so if you have a good relationship with those people, you're able to tell them about, say, our new industrial park that is focused on being a distribution center. Anyways, I went on one trip with them to Atlanta 3 or 4 months ago. It would be increased travel to go out and visit with those site selectors, and we've also been busier. We asked you guys to pass that 2% tax rebate incentive to recruit businesses. We've been busy with our attorney and our engineer working on different projects, trying to recruit businesses here into town. And so it's broke down between trying to recruit businesses. That $10,000 would be travel to other states to meet those site selectors, build those relationships to try and land new businesses, but also professional fees with attorneys and engineers.
How many businesses do you anticipate bringing into town in like the next 4 or 5 years with your industrial park or that 15th Street?
We have 8 lots, and we're optimistic we could have it filled in roughly 6 years. It'd be
8 lots at the industrial park?
Yep. We've worked with Brian Eliason. Eliason.
I don't know how to say it either. Eliason?
And I've asked him, I said, are we priced competitively? Do you think we can fill this up? And he said, yeah, I think optimistically, you're on the interstate there. Hopefully we can get it filled in 6 years. And so cross our fingers and hope for that. When GUED came, we shot a video with you, and they're using that for workforce recruitment. Mitchell was their spotlight community for the month of September, highlighting the video plus all the different things we have going on. We have the #1 school, we're doubling water capacity, tripling sewer capacity, building 100 new houses. We have the largest economic development project 3 miles south of town. We're applying for a $16 million loan to help the soybean plant drive down their cost of shipping their product. We have a lot of very positive momentum going on in Mitchell right now. So I'm optimistic we could fill it very quickly. An idea of what that value would be for those 8 lots. We did have a business there that ended up going just to the east of our Performance Pets. You see that new building there? We courted them pretty hard to go into our industrial park. The problem was they needed to be open by October, which is here.
Why didn't you put those guys on 15th Street? Someone asked me that the other day.
They looked at it.
They didn't like it?
We showed them a lot of different spots. Because of the time frame and how quickly they needed to build, we were lucky to be able to keep them in Mitchell. And so that was a win for us, just keeping them in Mitchell. But I wanted them in our industrial park, but because they had to be open by October, I said, I can't even get it probably bid and awarded and moving forward by that time frame. So we missed out on one, but we have a lot of opportunity for growth.
Move forward, I'm okay with Kevin's idea of the same as last year and then 30,000 if it passes.
Vote no on IM 28.
Fails. Fails, passes, that's what we look.
So they're going to get 167 whether it passes or not?
Well, that is not necessarily the case.
That's what we're going to say tonight.
Go ahead.
Well, you said 167 unless it fails. If it passes, then what do they get?
167, no matter what.
I
Okay.
think that,
Fails, then they'll get another 30.
Got it.
I think if IM 28 passes, we are going to look at every budget again.
Correct.
And really dive back into the numbers. It's not just this one, it's all of them. And so we're living in an optimistic world where the thing fails. And so I think it would be better to say that we're going to try and do the higher number because IM 28 will hopefully fail.
Right. I think what Tim's saying, if I'm hearing you right, is I would like to see us put that up to 197. I think that the work that they're doing is just crucial to our community's growth, and I would like to see us put it at the 197. They haven't had an increase in 5 years, and the work that they're doing is aggressive, and I think that it's important, so. And obviously, if IM 28 passes, then we'll re-examine.
Might not get anything.
How many how many budget meetings are after the vote?
Well,
Two?
technically, there's just the first, there's only one after the
one and
vote,
then-
second reading. You're going to have your budget
We have to
ready before then, because we have to have the first reading on the first meeting in,
We may be
November.
doing some special meetings.
yeah. And keeping in mind that when it comes to, worst case scenario, it passes, the city's looking for big cuts, you can say, yes, these are in the budget, but we're not going to cut any of those checks to you. You as council approve claims every cycle. You can say, yeah, it might be budgeted, but we're not doing it in order to cut funds. So we still have to have the budget document ready to go the first meeting in November. So what am I putting in for this one?
I'm at halfway. Throw a lot of curveballs at, I'm at 182. And that way, I'm looking at.
Where'd you come up with that number?
I look at Main Street and Bleon, what they did there.
Oh, okay,
Went
yeah.
from 40 to 50, we met them halfway, I'm all about meeting another entity halfway of the request, so I'm at 82. 182.
That's very fair.
182.
But Kevin, you're saying that if IM 28 fails, you'd be okay with giving them the extra money. So from budgeting perspective, he's even at the 197. So I would agree that I'm fine with what Marty suggested too, at 182.
And then 197 if it fails?
No, I
No,
think it's
just
167 and 182.
182.
We've asked some of these other places to cut theirs down. I mean, I know where he's going with his legal fees and whatnot to catch up, but we have to be fair with them all.
And again, we, pass or fail, we're still going to have some discussion on this. And I really think what his proposal, what Mike and Kimberly's proposal really does pay dividends for the city of Mitchell. So that's, I'm going to be in favor of the 197 if the numbers come in right. But I'm fine with the 182 right now.
I'm okay with the 197.
So we have several of us at 197, three of us.
I think I've heard 4 at one.
All right, everyone raise your hand if you're at 182.
182?
It's 4.
Four.
Leave it at 167.
Okay.
Or, if I may finish, or 182, not 197.
Oh, okay. So that's these numbers. That sounds like 5 people then, right? Okay.
Just so you can see, you have now increased 68,000 that you're going to have to cut somewhere else out of general fund.
How much?
That's where you're at.
68,000?
Yep.
68, I think in this file.
Oh, yeah, you must have missed one. Oh, you put 25,000 in quotations.
Next, we'll go to the prehistoric
Okay.
Indian Village.
Because we went down 25,000 from last year's
Oh,
budget.
gotcha. Okay.
Okay, we're prehistoric Indian Village.
Oh, sorry, I gotta do this.
Oh, he's fast.
Sorry, guys. So prehistoric Indian Village, right here you can see the changes. So you didn't do any funding in 11, you did 4,000 in 12, none in 13, then you were at 15,000, 17. You're back at 16,500 in 19. 11, 250, 13,000, 13,000. Last year, they increased the request to 19,000, which council funded a $6,000 increase in 2024.
I'm sure Jerry's got a great presentation to make, but I'm fine with the 19,000.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in with you too, Jeff. Yeah, I think this entity is obviously a good entity, and what we do also, we move a lot of people from Corn Palace out to Indian Village, keeps them in town a lot longer. We're spread apart pretty good, and I think it's, I'm good with the 19,000 also. I think you guys also, with the email was sent out, had explained it well enough for 19, so.
Well,
that was easy, thank you.
Easiest presentation all night.
Thanks, Jerry, good speech.
I want to make a little comment about Marty saying keeping people in Mitchell longer. I seen something on my phone the other day. The average person spends, we're in the top 10 tourist traps with the Corn Palace. The average person spends 20 minutes at the Corn Palace. Anything we can do to keep them here a little longer, we need to do.
All right, we'll move on to the last one, the Mitchell Rodeo Foundation.
You have one after that, we also have the CVB. This is the last general fund.
Oh,
But this is the last general fund request. And this one has not received previous funding.
$211,996.
Yeah, just before you jump in, something that I want to bring up as a concept, this is probably partially my fault. I don't know if my fault is the right way to say this, but I went out to the new rodeo grounds and I was amazed at the facility that they were able to build out there. One of the things that I asked was, what else could this be used for? And how could the city benefit from that? The rodeo is a great event, don't get me wrong, but it's 4 or 5 days, maybe a week or two in total preparation and use of that facility. And so I certainly thought that if the city could get control, I don't know if control is the right word, but have operational use of the facility at times as a part of negotiated renegotiation of the contract, that might be something that would be good. I approached the previous mayor about that, and at that time, Bob was not interested in that. There's been a lot of tension with that organization and other entities in town. And then in the time frame of which the applications for these events were due, we had a new mayor elected and met with him. And at that point, we had already submitted this to potentially have it funded this way. But certainly a part of what I was hoping for is the possibility that we could have use of the facility for other events that the city wanted to host. We pay an individual to help put on events in Mitchell. And so I think that giving them an opportunity for another facility to use would be beneficial to the city. That is something that I am very passionate about, getting more things for not only the people of Mitchell, but to draw more people into Mitchell is something that I'm very hopeful to continue to do. So, sorry.
No, thank you. Jason Plamp with the Mitchell Rodeo Foundation. Our request here today is to, it's kind of two-pronged. One is we're looking at potential funding for a FEMA grant for a storm shelter, and that would probably be right around $1 million project, and I believe our portion of that would have to fund is 5%, and so that's part of it. And the other portion of that is for help on the water and sewer project that we brought water and sewer into the grounds. Right now, we have water up to all of the buildings, and sewer has been serviced through vaults. The reason that happened is because of the storm this June halted the project, and we weren't able to start up again until hopefully later this fall. But basically, that's the two requests that are before you.
Okay, I think one thing we'll need to clarify is if the city applies for the FEMA grant for that storm shelter as we did in the campground, we would not be paying that to the rodeo because we would have to be the ones making the application. So that would be funding, matching funds that the city would, you're asking the city to provide the matching funds for the grant.
Gotcha.
Because it is a city, we did find that. It has to be the city who applies. The rodeo can apply for it. And then the other reason why this request came in, they did request that during the construction that the city pay for that water and sewer, but when city staff looked at the lease did say that that they were solely responsible for establishing and maintaining the utilities. So city staff did not have the ability to say yes to that, and that's why it's coming to council.
And just to be clear, though, in that contract, we have no use of the facility without other negotiation of the facility, correct?
That would be my understanding.
I'm just stating that we were asked to do it, and without council changing that because of the existing lease, the city can't approve putting in something at our cost when the lease says it's the tenant's cost.
Just to clarify, the 1,200 feet of water and sewer lines have been installed.
The water has been installed, the sewer has not.
Sewer has not, okay.
So we had to halt because of the water problems or, the wet June. But it will go in this fall, conditions willing. Who knows if we get another storm or something that would stop that process. But right now, we're in the books for, as soon as Schoenfelter's available again. Right now, the numbers that you see there, this was applied for back in the first part of August or the end of July, I can't really remember, but those dollars for the install of the water line and the engineering and the sewage tanks, those have all been paid. So that's, we're carrying that, but what we hoped is that with this project of putting in the storm shelter, we would share that between us and the soccer association and other businesses in the area so that they would have access. We would put it outside of the rodeo grounds itself, so it would be out in the parking lot or in the trees. So it would serve both facilities, and then basically we're funding that project and then hopefully splitting the cost of the water and sewer.
Are we putting a storm shelter at the campground right now?
Yes.
Yep, that's correct.
And just like with a campground shelter, so the way the FEMA grant process works, they'll only pay for the portions that are relevant to this shelter. So like we added showers into the campground and that was all at our cost. So they do that determination based on the use of the facility.
So like the other entities, I'm just going to ask, have you approached United Way, and are you getting any money from United Way or from like the Mitchell Area Charitable Foundation?
Have not approached United Way. For full disclosure, I'm on the United Way board. This doesn't feel like something they would fund. We have approached Mitchell Area Charitable Foundation. We have approached the Weller Foundation. We've applied for other grants, including this one. We've got a lot of good sponsorship help. We've applied to the South Dakota Community Foundation, and we've been approved for a bunch of those. To date, we've invested about $1.3 million in infrastructure in the new facility, and that's all been funded. And so this is kind of in addition to that.
And one other question that I have, that I've asked, is this a one-time ask that you see as being just a,
Yes,
We just need this
that would
one
be my
time.
hope. Yep.
thanks.
So I can remember back when Mr. Music stood up here and told us they'd be back to ask for this. So I'm a hard no on this. It says in the contract, it's on them. Contract's a contract. Unless we can get the use of the facility like Tim says, I'm a hard no.
So you would be interested or open to at least looking at terms for a contract change where we get use of the facility for X number of days?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and one of the things that we talked about also, the event was just absolutely amazing, and the facilities look really good. I mean,
Thank you.
that is really nice. We've got our impound car lot basically hindering the access in and out, and I'm assuming, I think we do have that included into our budget this year, so we are improving the area out there, and I think Tim's got a great idea. I'm not a hard no, but I think there's maybe ways of trying to partner together and maybe put this together, maybe at the last second also in November. But for now, I think that these are great strides that we're making right now. We're actually helping with the improvement of moving that. And Stephanie, you can confirm that or not.
28,141, it's currently included.
Okay, and we're moving that straight to the east?
To the other side of the structure that's out there. So I'm directionally challenged.
It's moving from the west over to that steel shed to the east,
There you go.
probably 50 yards. So it'll be way far away. Does that sound right, Joe?
Yep. Yeah, and as far as the shelter is concerned, I obviously, how do you go against shelters? But in reality, we don't have them in every location, or Cadwell Park or other parks or swimming pool, whatever but in reality, we know the distance from town is a little ways out there. But maybe for now, I wouldn't just put that on hold at this point too, unless you guys feel differently.
I think, I agree with you too on that, because with Mitchell campgrounds is that far away. How many shelters do they have in there anyway?
Tornado shelters?
Yeah.
The only one I know of is Camp Arroyo, and it's just a half a culvert.
I think there are a few designated in town. I think the Corn Palace is technically one. I think the courthouse is one. There might be some older ones that I can't think of. Kevin Nelson would probably know. It's more of a parks item.
I do know, like, in the process of going through the grant application, we did meet and initially look at what they need, and they need to know, like, how many people are there, and the shelter hold the number of people that'll be there. And I think they were focusing on the overnight guests that would be out at the storm shelter, because you can't build a shelter big enough for all the people just coming to the event. A lot of those people are just going to leave if there's a tornado.
One of the things that I think will get brought up is that if you talk to the soccer association, getting the use of bathrooms out there in a bigger number is something that they had. They recently had a tournament out there that had, I think, I counted 14 porta potties added up. And so that if you talk to the soccer association, one of the things that they've looked at doing is trying to figure out a way to get more bathrooms out to that facility. That when you talk about 22 kids actively playing soccer on a pitch plus another 5 to 10, the people start adding up really quick when you have people on a soccer field. playing the game. But
Do they play out there, or do they play at Joe Quinnell Field?
sorry, that's the high school that plays at Joe Quinnell, but all of the youth, the youth soccer plays out of there, and Dakota Wesleyan also plays on the big pitch. Yep.
That was my other angle too, is taking a look at that for bathroom facilities, because I've been at a few tournaments myself this year, and it's porta potties everywhere. And, you know, a long time when we designed that facility, I can't remember if it was 2006 or whatever, our goal was always to put bathrooms over in that far corner. And the youth programs that play out there, if I understand right, they have to play on the far west fields because of the size of them, and then to get the preparation of when Wesleyan gets done and other entities that play the larger fields, you can't change them in time. So we were all on the west side over there, a bunch of people, there were several fields played for, and yeah, it was, I guess, somewhat of an embarrassment of a facility that's been there that long, and we're using porta potties yet out there. So I would look at the shelter, obviously incorporating both those entities and get a double win, I guess, out of it, so.
And technically, if you're going to seek that grant, it's not going to be through the subsidy. It would probably be something that you add into the sports complex budget, because you're going to have to budget for the whole amount and the revenue coming in for that federal grant requirement as well.
So where does that put us?
Based on what I'm hearing, I think that it puts us in a place where we have to have a conversation outside of this meeting with looking at the language of the contract and what potentially that means for use of the facility and potential for future shared use.
Yeah, because we have a meeting next week, we can discuss it. Meeting a week from tonight, so that would be, that would get that on the agenda.
Yeah, we probably have to meet with them first to figure out what
Yeah, right.
full
We gotta
terms
make it
mean.
work fast, we want it in the budget, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think for now, that's where I'm at too, is a zero for now, but it's just because we need to have some more, you know, discussion, conversation to see what we can put together as a full package deal for everybody to benefit out of this. So, but for now, for us, for budget purposes, I'd like to see a zero on there also.
Just real quick, Jason, if you want to maybe explain, you know, the possibilities outside of the existing rodeo right now, I think people would be very interested in hearing of what else you
Yeah.
guys envision for that facility.
Oh, most certainly. I think that the possibilities are endless, really. I mean, you've got a grandstand and, facilities, bathroom facilities and concession facilities, so concerts, motorcycle races, youth rodeos, it's really endless. Anything that you could do inside, you could do outside during the summer, so.
Have you approached the High School Rodeo Association yet about using it?
We've talked with them a little bit. We've got some things we need to do. You know, the main goal this year, and we talked about this before, we started at the center of the arena and worked our way out, so now we're out beyond the fences in what we're doing. But one of the things that they really need for high school finals rodeo or high school rodeo is 2 arenas. So we would put another arena, not with seating and stuff like that, but just so they can run more events quicker.
Qualifying events or something?
Yeah, or 2 events at the same
I
time. For
see.
example, breakaway roping on one side and steer wrestling on the other. Other questions? All right.
Thank you.
I got one more question. So assuming we could come to an agreement on however many events it is, what number are you guys looking to go for? The full amount? Let's just say we bring 40 events a year, or whatever the number is. I'm just wondering. There's nothing to do with this. Okay.
50,000 is the FEMA thing that we would take off because we would have to do that through the city. So you're then at the 161,996?
Correct.
162,000.
Okey dokey.
Thank you.
Okay, and the last one is CVB, 275.
And so just to start, the Convention and Visitors Bureau is funded out of entertainment tax, so it is not the same source as the other ones that you've heard here to date. Here you can see the funding history. It looks like since 2018, they were at 273 until 2020, and it got moved down to 250, and it's been flat since then. Last year, they requested a $25,000 increase. They requested that again this year.
I've been meaning to ask you this for like 2 weeks, but how much money is in the entertainment tax fund?
The cash balance?
Yeah.
Okay, so the projected cash balance, 673, and that's not factored into anything that's in the budget for this year.
And what else do we use that money for?
We are paying, that's where the streetscape is coming from, the plaza expansion, anything like that's been coming out of there. We did, you did the first time when you took over, the first 2 years when you took over the pre-Sturgis party, that was paid for out of there. Things like that, community projects. We did the streetscape improvements on Burr that we paid for, the landscaping portions, things like that.
We're going to do this pre-Sturgis outing next year, probably.
Yeah, they have it next year as well. They, yes, it's in the Corn Palace budget.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I guess I'll just give my spiel on why I'm
you say your
asking
name real
for some more money. Yes, my name is Johanna, and I am the CVB marketing lead for the Mitchell Area Chamber of Commerce. So we are asking for $25,000 more this year than we did last year, so a total of $275,000. And what we're going to use that money for is community marketing. So it'll be a combination of community marketing and out-of-state marketing, but our dollars are spent between, marketing. Either we help with as many community events as we can market, depending on our budget, but we also do general community advertising like shopping local, especially during the holiday seasons, advertising for our app, as well as for hunting season. So we utilize those marketing agencies that we have in Mitchell. So that's newspaper, radio, things like that, print magazine as well. And then we also do a lot of out-of-state marketing. So we work with different marketing agencies to specifically target different demographics. We have data that we analyze, and we work with these agencies to target specific audiences where we know people are coming to Mitchell from, and we advertise to them. So this is a mixed media advertising approach. So we do Spotify advertising, YouTube, radio, some billboards, some print, some more digital, Facebook, Instagram. We really do a mixed media approach for this because we feel like this is how we're going to reach all of our targeted demographics. You can't just go through one avenue to reach who you're wanting to reach. You really need to hit as many as possible. And I do want to share some statistics to show why I think this is working. So when I was planning my 2024 marketing plan, I was really thinking of overnight travel. So that's what I had in mind. I really wanted to get people to spend the night in Mitchell, to come and see the Corn Palace, but to also go to the Indian Village, to go to the Carnegie Resource Center, which I'm very happy that our staff at the Corn Palace are pushing people there, and to see what else we have in Mitchell. And so this is what I had in mind as I was planning these marketing campaigns. And so I can say proudly that hotel occupancy for Mitchell is up 2.8% year to date for 2024, and that's from 2023, which was a record year. So that is great. Visitor spending for Davison County is up 7.3% year to date. That's coming from Travel South Dakota Tourism Economics. And the third penny sales tax, which is collected, I get that data from the City of Mitchell Collections, has been up every single month except for 2. So it looks like our marketing efforts are working, and we want to keep on improving those. And I also want to share a story. My little sister lives in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and this is one of our biggest markets is Minnesota. And you guys might be thinking, well, I don't see any of your tourism ads. Well, that's because they would not be working if you guys were seeing them. So we target these areas where we know people are coming, and Minneapolis is one of those. And she called me a while ago on the phone and was extremely excited to let me know that she saw one of my ads. And we see the data, we know that they're out there and they're working, but it is really cool to actually have that in-person testimonial. So we also work with Travel South Dakota to a tourism grant where we match $40,000 and we get $80,000 worth of marketing collateral. And I just want to share a couple facts about why tourism is so important. I shared a couple of these when I spoke at City Council a couple months ago, but I just want to reiterate about what we're adding to Mitchell. So without tourism in our state, each household would pay over $1,000 more in taxes. So we are really bringing in money and we're creating a tax break for our citizens. So specifically for Davidson County, this is just 2023. We don't have this data for 24 yet, but we're expecting it to be great. Davidson County had $115 million in tourism spending. So again, this is coming from Travel South Dakota. They track this with an economic company that tracks credit card data. And the spending generated $8.3 million in state and local tax revenue. So we really feel like what we're doing is bringing money into our community. We have the Corn Palace. We have to have a marketing agency to promote this, as well as the other entities that we have in Mitchell.
That was a very good presentation.
All that,
Thank you, Mike, for practicing with me.
all that being said,
Yeah.
all that being said, you've done a wonderful job with 250,000. Why do you need more?
Yes, well, I think we can expand our marketing efforts with, events. We only have a little bit of money we can spend marketing events in Mitchell. And so we call that our community marketing dollars. So the marketing dollars that stay in Mitchell. And I would like to expand on that. So I would like to use the radio, the newspaper, magazine, print and digital to continue marketing events and also expand. So we've been able to do First Fridays with Main Street. I've done, farmers market for television and some radio ads as well, but I think we can really expand that. And I believe that's where I have the money budgeted to go. I have it in radio, TV, print advertising, some billboard, and then our visitor guide as well.
Well, 25,000 to satisfy all those things you want to do won't go that far.
No, it won't, but it will help us, for sure.
You can give us more if you'd like.
Yeah, if you want to give us 500,000, we'll take it, absolutely. But we just thought that was kind of a reasonable, that's what we asked for last year. We got 250. We thought, let's try again this year and see what happens, so.
I want you to know that I do appreciate all of the cute ads that you
Oh, thank you.
very catchy.
Thank
They're fun
you.
to see, so good job on that.
Yes, we've had great success with that between the CVB and the Chamber and Development and just sharing our story, and I think that's helped a lot.
You guys are working well together over there.
Thank you.
Still just in awe on how good that presentation was. You must have practiced that a lot.
Before your presentation, I was at 250.
Oh, really?
And now I'm willing to meet you halfway. That's
Okay.
the other entities. That's where I'm at. So I'm at the 262,500.
So I dug into everybody's financials like super deep.
Oh, well, thank you.
She talks longer, she gets that, huh?
Yeah, I can keep going, for sure. I could talk forever. Yeah.
I dug into everyone's financials like super deep, and I did pull a page where basically the entire subsidy went straight to advertising, so it's not like they're squirreling that money away. I mean, nearly the entire budget went directly into
And her last
advertising.
part of her answer about how she wants to get more aggressive locally on her advertising, that's what really picked me up, sold me on it, because I agree, we got to go outside the box, but we got to consider, we can't never forget about it.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
that's the part why you got me to go a little. Sorry.
Can you remind me where the tax revenue comes from
Comes
this
from
revenue?
ticket sales, alcohol, prepared food, and hotel
Hotels.
rooms.
Yep.
And I agree with Marty. I mean, how many times do you see somebody and they say, I didn't even know that was going on?
Yes, we want to combat
time.
that, absolutely.
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
Or recommendations, that was mine.
Two recommendations.
I'm okay with that.
I'm good with that.
62,
Oh, that's different.
And that budget's pretty healthy, that entertainment one right now. You only,
We
yeah.
want to make sure, yeah. That's what I was just going to say.
We need to cut 80,500.
No, you don't need the. Keep in mind, the 12,500 is out of the entertainment tax. So you're talking about 68,000 that you
Yeah,
just
so that, yeah,
increased.
that's why it's separated. It's a
And then-
completely different fund.
And then the only other thing I would remind council is when you went through this list, you know, there were several items that we had to cut already to get to a balanced budget. I know subsidies are in here for that request, but also keep in mind the things that you've cut out of your government operations in order to have a balanced budget. So you're asking for additional, you know, you're going to have to come up with 68,000 more. We're already at a lower contingency amount than in this year's budget, and as you heard me say earlier, we have less than 15,000 left this year.
And I'm glad Joe's got some good ideas.
Yeah, well, and one last thing. Just as a update for everybody, at the last meeting, we talked about, currently, we do not have the turf included in the budget. That was $350,000 for Cadwell Park. And if you add the, here's all the explanation for the infield turf, that's another $275,000. Neither one of those are in the budget, and you would have to cut that amount out of the existing budget. Dan can talk about this more, but it sounds like you really need to do the infield work with the drain tile installation before you do any turf work. So,
It's like with Dan, I think he probably needs a few more days.
Yes and no. The bids came in just like everything, they're high. You know, if you did just the turf where the dirt is, you know, you're talking right at 200,000. But the main thing that needs to be done first is the grass infield. And as long as you're doing, you need to do the drain tile underneath of it and spruce up the irrigation. You know, the sand profile around the irrigation is very expensive. That one surprised me. I gave Stephanie a copy of the bid so she could email it out to everybody. It's a little unrealistic to do it all this year with what the bids came in. The one thing I think we could do is get by is do the grass, the infield. The one I gave her with all the dirt work was $275, plus there's a $200,000 for the turf. Well,
and
that's
Park
unrealistic.
and Rec gave us an estimate of $350,000.
Correct, and it came in over that. That was everything together. So it came in about 420. But if we don't do the upgraded dirt, there's still some division over turf on the dirt and I'm doing some talking today, and for some oddball reason, everybody's cell phones were down in town today and nobody was answering. But if we did all the grass infield with the turf, it would be right at $200,500. What I gave Stephanie today, you take the dirt edge amendment out and the infield dirt irrigation, you're about 50, I take that back, it's $219,000. And then address the second part next year.
What was the second part? I was losing track of all those
Excuse me?
things. What was the second part? I was losing track of all your things.
I think it's this one
Base,
here.
second part is taken out. It's the dirt edge, if you don't go with turf, it's mixed in with the agri-line.
Oh,
And
are you
then
talking about take this off, part of this?
just, on the second page, the top one and the third one.
Okay, so
And this just came in today, so, and I gave in order to Stephanie. I gave her a copy. But you add up the whole page, just for that was $275,000. You take them two off, you're at 219 if my math is good, 219.5. And then next year you could come back. You can add the artificial turf without doing anything to that dirt at no extra cost, just 1 year later. The part that's going to take up a lot of time to get ready for the next season is the drain tile, tearing up the infield, putting down your drain, the sand base, and then the sod on the top.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask.
Yep.
It's hard for me to hear with the background noise. If
Yeah, I guess if we
Sorry.
don't need the subsidy people in here, we can cut them loose so they
Well,
can.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm not saying people leave, but I'm just saying if you're in the audience, if you could keep the voices down.
But we don't need anyone else for subsidies if you do want to leave, right? I think.
On the
okay.
second page,
Yep, so I heard.
if you take the top one and the third one off.
The top and the third one, Dan?
Yeah,
Okay.
on the second page, yes. Then you would have no added expense. You could get the grass done up to par. And, because if you add them both together, you're looking at 420,000. So, and I understand what's going here tonight, that probably can't happen.
So you're saying, just to summarize it, you're saying you can do all the prep work, sorry if I'm talking loud, you can do all the prep work, get the drain tile, get the dirt, get the
And
grass.
infield grass.
And then next year or whenever, you can just go slap the turf on top and then the
If they want,
project
yeah.
is complete.
You either scratch the turf on top or you get the turf up to code. It's called Dura-Edge. Get the code where you want it.
Okay,
Okay, so.
just trying to clarify.
Just to clarify, so first of all, this 275, which is now, what'd you say, 219?
219.5.
219
So say
is not in the budget. And then currently the 350 that we had in there, which was based on the parks request for
And they
the,
were, and they were going up
Yep.
my recommendation for the whole project, yes.
well, I don't know. I'm
Yep,
just
yep,
telling
yep.
you that their request was 350, and when I clarified with Kevin Nelson, he said that was just for the turf. So are we taking, and neither one of them
Well-
are currently in.
You know, grass is turf too, so. he's
No,
talking the whole
artificial
project.
turf, sorry.
Yes.
He told me the artificial turf.
And that was pretty close, and I gave him that, so.
Yep.
So you're thinking we're doubling up on the numbers?
No, I'm just wanting to make sure everybody realizes, right now, we
Right.
had a $350,000 request just for the turf. That was currently cut out of the budget, that's not included.
And then, so that figure went to 420.
Yep. I just want to make sure everybody's aware that
Yep.
the artificial turf is not currently.
So in
included,
lieu of that, we're kind of proposing what phase one is, right?
Little
which is
bit.
down
Of
here,
prep work.
Yep.
Okay.
which is really the 219 versus the 275.
219, but say 220, yeah.
220, okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
I'm there now.
Mr. Sabers, is that a local contractor doing that work, or is someone?
This would have to be out to bids, so it's the turf companies that I got an estimate from, is out of, I don't know, Missouri, I think.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, just curious where you come with that number.
And then there's a company out of Minnesota that does baseball fields. They did Del Rapids. We had them come in, I think Kevin was out there, and they came back with their estimates. So, and then it'd have to be bid out, so.
And I can send this out to council after today, we just got it today, so. That has the 220 in it.
Nobody's phones are working, so it didn't matter anyway.
What's that?
It didn't matter if you sent it out anyway.
Yeah,
Nobody's phone
true.
was working.
So Stephanie, what's the number if we, with what we talked about tonight with subsidies and these extra projects that were not a part of the budget, what's the total number?
280 something altogether?
Baseball,
Oh.
68, but then we also had,
68,000 for subsidies alone.
Yep.
And then if you want to add anything else in, you're gonna need to add additional. So if you wanna add the 220 for this Cadwell Park, you're short 220 plus 68, so 288.
but none of the things on here are funded, correct?
None of these things, if it's funded, it'd show right here on the right, if it's in the budget. The other items are just items that came up for discussion. Another one was, excuse me, another one was the resurfacing of the tennis courts. So right now, Kevin Nelson had that estimated at $34,000. That's also currently not included. He could potentially, I don't know if they'll have funds left over in any of their budgets because they're kind of over on almost all of them. So he had a funeral.
I will vouch for the tennis courts, they're past due. So whether we do it or not this year, it's.
And that
gotta get done.
34,000 is only for the newest ones, not for the old ones.
And then I'm looking back here.
And then we're budgeting for a $1.4 million loss if IM 28 passes, correct?
Correct.
So if it fails, do we have an alternate plan? Or that,
That's up to council to decide what you would like to do with that 1.4. If you just wait and roll it into the following year, or if you go and make some changes to your budget to add that in. We could also look at adding it into revenue, but you just have to keep in mind that if it goes away, that's revenue you might not receive. And if we spend all the money that you budget and we don't get all of our revenue, now you're dipping into your reserve. So the reason why we don't have it shown in revenue is so that you, if IM 28 passes, we're still, well, the best case scenario of IM 28, we're still balanced.
Stephanie
We had that
is,
discussion before a little bit about, taking a look at a mock idea, so
Yep.
we're on the right path.
Stephanie, is the phase 3 of the master plan at the golf course included?
It's currently not included, no.
So we can't take it out. It's already
Nope.
out.
So right here on your line, on your handout that I gave you, if you look down the column that says
Oh, I see. Sure.
2025 proposed, those are the only items funded. So if it's blank there, it was already cut. So there's no funding there to cut additional. Like the ice arena roof, we knew that that needs work, that's not in there. There is a number, I think I had $4 million of additional capital requested by the park fund this year. So we obviously couldn't increase our transfer up to $7 million. So we have quite a few cuts out of that as well.
I think we could take 50,000 out of the flooring and the windows at the city hall in case, I mean.
Well, I was
talking
going,
about moving the building.
that's exactly what I was going to bring up. The replacement of the chamber councils, the flooring, if we're talking about moving, building, remodeling, do we want to stick money in, then we should decide
That's
where
been
we
my
want to go
comment
forward.
for the last 11 years now, 10 years now, and because I was told we were going to be in a new building. We do have tiles that are broken in the hallway that are asbestos tiles that need to be taken care of. We have windows in this building that are leaking. We repaired the worst ones this year, but we do need to replace the others. And I've been told for 10 years we're moving, so I'm just thinking we might not be moving.
Joe, I have a question for you, I believe. It says parking lot, 3rd and Main, 61,000 for street and sidewalk. I thought that was owned by Adamo.
So he has approached us about taking that back over as a public parking lot. So if the city would like that to be a public parking lot, then we would pay for those improvements. It would not be limited to just their tenants. It could be open for anyone to use now.
Thanks, Joe.
The one, yeah, I know. The one right, I looked at him, he said yes. The one right by the Western Building on 3rd and Main by Adamos.
Across the street.
Yep. They would retain, I think it was 3 or 4 spots there that they needed for some storage for their restaurant materials.
Yeah, they talked about wanting an area for a garage and maybe a couple parking spaces.
Where will their tenants park? Yeah.
Correct.
It would be ours. I see. Got it.
So I have down taking out the flooring replacement and the window replacements, keeping in mind we did $15,000 worth of those costs this year out of contingency because they were leaking down the walls. We also have a door replacement in there that you could take out. Again, that's that back door, and we are having troubles with the water coming in through that back door as well, but that's also in here. And whoever said painting, that was already cut.
Yeah, that's right.
So, if it's okay to ask a question on the softball diamond with the lights and our grant that we are looking into, and we're replacing wood poles that were there for 50 years, 60 years?
Yeah, there's budgeted money to inspect them to see if we do need new poles. And then
Okay.
I think, I talked to Jeremy and I feel like he said we could get a 50% grant on that. I think he
Yeah,
applied for
and
it.
that's actually called out. We talked about that at the last meeting. So all we have currently budgeted is one section of all of them that need replaced.
Okay.
He does have money budgeted to do the inspections. It's replacing the wood poles with a metal pole and converting the lights from regular to LED.
Right.
The thing with the grant is that we can apply for it once. So we wanted to know what's the cost of all of our replacements, I got that from Jeremy.
I don't think it's switching them to metal. I think they're wood again. It's-
No, they're metal. I've seen the posts. I have the
I just talked to
quote.
him the other day and asked him why we didn't do metal, and he said it was way too expensive,
I
but,
think the lights, you can't even get those lights.
yeah, the bulbs are.
Oh, yeah, they're old. Here, if you'd like to see, I'll pull up the quote that he sent me on these lighting.
So the point is, though, is we move forward, as you're looking at that, in order for us to move forward, we'd have to add an additional
Right.
169,000 to the budget.
That would be if we wanted to do additional lights and get a 50% grant, but now that they've got me, here, just give me a second here, let me pull it up. So our total, here's an example, it's 155,000 per pole, or per field, excuse me, that they figured out. So yes, they are metal. So here you can see, this is for the baseball field. I thought I added this on my comments down below, did I not? Yeah, oh, yeah, so here, we currently have 456 towards a cost of 1.2, but then we found out, I had them go back and do additional look at it. In addition to that, we would need, it was like another almost $2 to $3 million to do all of the posts. It's $155,000 per field, or per section that they were doing. So my thought was, if you're going to apply for a grant, you're going to get the grant once, you should do as many as you can, so they're paying for 50% of it versus us paying full cost and getting half as much.
And do you think the grant will not be there in future years?
No, it's there in future years, but from talking to Kevin, it's like, we're likely to get it one time, you're not likely to get it repeatedly.
Okay, so that
try to get the
kinda
biggest
says-
bang for your buck,
Okay.
do as many as you can, and then,
50%.
yeah.
Hard to walk away from that.
But it's not going to.
Oh, here's my note.
No,
Here it is.
Stephanie just said is whoever applies will get you'll get what you apply for, and then next year, it's probably going to be Yankton's turn or whoever.
Well, yeah, you're just not,
You're not going to get multiple years
Right.
together.
Right, but does it have to be done this year is my question. Does it need to be?
no, it doesn't have to be done this year, other than we had a pole fall over because of the condition of the poles. So we're going to have, it's 1.2 million for the 8 softball fields. I had them quote what the additional field costs were going to be. We'd have to add another 940,000 to do the rest, and that does not include the electrical installation. So you're talking at probably, I don't know, Joe, you're maybe better at this than me. Oh, I was saying $2.5 million to $3 million because of installation and not knowing what that is. But if you're going to do this and you're going to go after a grant to pay for half of it, well, do you want to pay 2.5 or do you want to pay 1.25 and get the whole thing done? That's where I was at. Yeah. And doesn't mean we have to pay for it this year, but they're going to be doing inspections on those poles, and we may find that they're hazardous and we need to replace them anyways. And then maybe you do this mid-year. I don't know.
Is there a hurry for the streetscape for the last, to put that off for a year?
That's already been awarded. So we can't, you mean the plaza?
No, the two streetscapes we got done. You got 200,000 in here,
That's the remaining budget out of the existing project.
so it's already
Yep.
past tense.
Yep. And that's a different
Funded
fund.
with little
That's
sheet.
entertainment tax fund. That's entertainment tax, not general fund.
Do you know when you'll have an answer on the polls?
They're budgeting for the inspections for next year. So they're budgeted to be inspected next year. I don't know, talking to Jeremy, it sounds like, Mayor, you can tell me what you think, but it sounded like they thought they were all going to be bad.
So it could go either way. So the pole that fell was not in concrete, and it was the lowest point of the field, so it may have collected the most water and gotten rotten. So they're gonna spend $18,000. There's 74 poles. One fell down, so there's 73 poles they're gonna test. They're gonna do a core sample, and then they'll tell us if they're bad or not, and then I guess go from there. So they could be good, they could be bad. They look bad to me, but I don't know. I'm not a
Well, he's texting me, so hold on.
Yeah, I mean, I think some were built in the 90s and some were built before then, so I don't know.
But is it if it's just the pole that's bad, you could replace just the pole.
But the lights themselves are discontinued. You cannot get
You
the
can't
bulbs at
replace the
all.
lights anymore because of
You
the.
cannot get the lights anymore. They've took them all up, and then Jeremy said he has to have Muth come out every year, every time there's a light bad, and get one of those long bucket trucks. So the maintenance cost is pretty heavy as far as,
The bulb itself too is.
the bulb is
Cost of them
done.
that currently that are left in circulation are ungodly expensive.
He said he bought the last one available on the internet, so. So I said we should sell them on eBay.
They do
for
come with
ungodly amounts of money.
25-year parts and labor warranty.
Yeah, oh yeah. he
And
said
I
this-
asked him what he's texting me right now.
Yeah, 25-year
And I-
warranty on the lights, so if there's anything wrong with the next 25 years, then.
Then I asked him also what he thinks the conditions of the existing poles are not good. So I just know that there's concern about what if another pole falls and someone gets hurt.
I guess what I'm trying to think of is, could we reduce the cost of the project by doing wood poles instead of metal poles and still replacing the lights? I don't know if that's feasible. I don't know.
I could have swore Jeremy told me they were wood. Did he text you if they were wood or metal?
They're metal, he said.
They are metal,
They're
okay,
all
they are
metal.
Because you're saying the longevity we have with the current wooden poles were.
I don't know what technology will bring in the next 50 years, but there's a good chance that in 50 years, you'll have to replace them again because they stopped making them.
Yep.
Just wait.
I see.
I'm going to see if Jeremy can take a
They
call.
say you shouldn't do wood basements. but
He said it was like,
People still do them because they last a long, long time.
Well, and even if we had to look at putting foundation down and cementing the pole that fell wasn't in any kind of foundation, so maybe that would be something that we include in this project that was not previously thought of.
hold on.
I wonder if we should.
Jeremy's on a 10-minute delay watching us online, so he's available by phone. Jeremy, there's a couple questions I don't have the answers to. First, did we look at doing wood poles in lieu of the metal poles?
Yeah, the one that just got replaced, that moved to replace, they put a new wood pole on with just like parking lot LED lights, and I believe that bill, I went to insurance, but I believe it was $38,000 just for that one pole that went out.
So
38,000 for the pole?
one pole.
New LED lights, but they're just like parking lot LED lights, not the Musco sporting light for the quote that I got.
Wow. Okay.
Jeremy, do you know what the price
Musco
difference?
one is all metal poles,
Okay, yep.
LED sporting light, 25-year parts
Yep.
and labor warranty.
I did state that for everyone, that they're all metal poles. Tim has a question.
Yeah, Jeremy, do you know what the price difference would be between a metal pole and the wood pole?
Muscos?
Yeah, he wants to know the price difference between the wood pole versus the metal pole.
Musco just does metal poles, but if you add 38,000 times
What?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 poles on each field with 8 softball fields. I have 74 wooden poles, including soccer and ABC Drake, but one of them got replaced, so I got 73 times 38,000. But some of those A, B, and C are not as tall, so that's why that's only like 150. I think that was that number.
Yeah, 155.
Yep.
I'm just trying to do an apples to apples, like on the 8 softball fields, how many poles are there?
Well, the 2 fields have 6 and the other have 8 poles on each field.
So 14 times 38,000? I can't.
Yeah, and there's more fixtures on that pole because there's less light poles on that field than one other field.
So just for,
So I would say 33 to 35,000 per pole, because that one was 38.
okay.
And that's installed electrical, they put it all up. That was Moose total bill for replacing that one pole. I think it was 38.
Okay.
I don't know, I turned it into Liz. 'cause
I
it
mean,
was
he's
Is there-
comparing the 38,000
Does
for the
anybody-
one-time pole to, and so I don't think that's apples to apples, a
does
fair
anybody else
comparison.
have a question, Jeremy?
I do not. Does anyone else have a question for Jeremy?
Would the grant cover just the what is it,
No, it covers, it's upgrading your lights to LED.
That's where the
It's
grant
for
is.
field lighting, yeah.
So if you supply a pole, they're not requiring a steel pole as
No.
part of the spec.
No. And the other grant that we just became aware of is more like a rebate. I got information on that at my conference, and that'll be about, we could apply for $76,000 of a rebate for that. Again, that would, it qualifies to do the upgrade from regular lights to LED lights. I was like, I knew I had this information somewhere, I just had it hidden in my note. Sorry about that.
Tim, did you get your answer?
I don't think Jeremy has an answer. I think that would be,
Yeah.
because I think that if you looked at one pole compared to speccing an entire park, your price is going to go down. And then also, it's not a specialty item, it's a supplier that's specifically designed for that purpose.
It's actually a pretty good idea.
So right now, if you, if council wants to remove that item, we have, the only amount that's in the budget is the 456.
And I don't think to remove it, I mean, it's hard to argue with 50% grant. But maybe if we can get some more information.
On comparing
do
the
some-
two methods?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
And still make absolutely sure that we're still, the grant is still available regardless of the type of poll, which you say yes, and I believe you, but it'd be nice to double check.
Well, and I'm getting my information through other people, so yes, I should verify anyways.
That is a very good number.
Just to make sure, 'cause, yeah, there's a lot of specs on
And I
it.
see, it's not only Cadwell, I saw Hitchcock on there.
All of them, yeah.
Okay.
So right now, this one is just for the 8 softball fields, but when I was down here looking at the total cost, because, maybe, I don't know, maybe if we look at the cost of the wood versus the metal, maybe we could do all of these for the 450, I don't know. I was just trying to make the most bang for the buck. If we're going to get 50% off, let's go get as many as we can, because for 456, you might be spending $1 million total and using our match as the matching funds. Just trying to make the most use of the grant dollars. That's a good match for just doing lighting upgrades. But I can look at that and find more information out.
So I'm just looking through the other capital projects, and I see that we have batting cages that were, actually, it says the 2025 request is nothing, but the proposed is 35,000. Can you tell me about that?
It didn't come in as a department request. That was something that we added during the mayor's meetings with department heads.
Yeah, I just had a lot, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to talk so
No,
loud. I just had a lot of people ask me for batting cages, and so I threw it in there. I have a question about as complex
I mean,
as
I
it
feel
gets.
like that's who doesn't want batting cages, but maybe that's not where we need to be putting our money this year.
Well, the comment I was going to make is we're adding to Park and Rec. So I think we really need to look at Park and Rec's budget closer than the other budgets at this point in time. And whatever gets sliced or diced this year should go to the top of the budget next year. I know it doesn't always work that way, but
Well, and we also try to look at, if we do have any money for supplements, we look at things that were cut to see if those could be added back in as well.
yeah. So it's going to be very difficult to kind of know where we're at until we get more information on the lights. But I really think we need to really focus in on the Park and Rec and see what is there to replace the items. I'm not saying the 68,000 that they need to. We got to come up with something on that. But as far as adding Cadwell infield and the lighting project, then I really think that that's where we need to initially focus to see where we can save some money.
When's our next budget discussion?
Well, I was going to bring that up. We don't have a lot of time now because we're pushing these off. Our next time, here, I'll pull this up here. I don't want to keep pushing the decisions down the road when we're going to have the budget put together for that first meeting in November. I'm going to pull this up.
Were we scheduled for next
At
council meeting at?
At 5:30 before
5:30?
council.
5:30.
I could go earlier. I mean, this is your guys' meeting. I mean, that only gives you a half hour. You don't get through much in that time frame.
That's the problem.
Is that the 7th then?
Oh, I had October 21st. No, I didn't have anything next week.
You got the 21st of April.
Yep. We could do next week. Oh, that makes me feel a little better.
That's why I'm not helping that.
I want to circle back to the lights a second. we're gonna put all this money into these lights. To me, it just makes sense. When I replace lights, I put fewer up, but better lights. Okay. I'm saying
They are-
poles, more stadium-style lighting, and I don't know, you know more about that, about the stadium, if that would work out there.
Usually they keep the same amount, like in baseball field, a little bigger and stuff. But they'll adjust it by the volume lights. Now these new LEDs, they're shooting down, 2 of them are shooting up. I think your football field's got it. They're a whole different, they're shooting straight down. And the ones down are shooting straight up to get the ball above the pole. But, most of them have 8 or 10 poles.
Dan, does this make sense to you? Something about you can track the ball better with these kind of lights? Okay.
I
if you'll
agree,
see
but the
this one-
lighting is crazy.
I'm pretty sure I've seen this was 50-30, goes by, I read it up there somewhere. That's baseball lighting, like they're the Candle Power 50-30, Little Leagues, and it goes 80-50. That's how they regulate their lights.
Just to be clear, there's no amount of light that will help Dan track a ball better.
Take the light off his forehead.
Stephanie, we have to have the budget approved at our first regular meeting in November.
Thing to keep in mind is that it takes us time to put that together. We need that at least a week ahead of time. Because we close the agenda Wednesday, we've got to get it into the right format.
So we can sit there and we can try to guess and see, well, this more, we can put it off till next year, but in reality, we don't know that. You guys know that, you guys know. I mean, would it make more sense for you and the mayor to get with the department heads and knowing what number we're going to be kind of searching for and say, or should we, or maybe come back with us with options and we make the final tough decision?
So
But we really, it's hard for us to say, should we get this tool cat or not? Can we put it off a year?
I agree, I mean.
What number am I looking for?
Micromanage of what we have to do. I mean, we've always been sitting up here over the years and always put a lot of weight on our department heads and everybody else to come and present us with something. It might not be the final decision, but just a better direction you're on. Otherwise, we're going to nitpick on something that we have no idea what's going on. I agree with you, Jeff. I mean, it just, some guidance from you. We know what we have to do to get some numbers cut, but, and I refer to it before, not just you, Joe, but everybody department heads wise that, what do you guys think would be good things that would work out better? So.
Well, with all due respect, really, that's what we did in the proposed budget. And you guys added $68,000 in. Are we adding also the 220? So am I coming up with 288 additional dollars to cut that we've already made $4 million worth of cuts from requests?
Correct.
This isn't where we started.
No, I know that.
Yeah, and so I did tour pretty much every single department, maybe not all of Joe's, but most of everyone's department, and found what they absolutely needed, but it's time for round 2, it sounds like.
Well, and one thing too, once again, I'm trying to be positive on this. IM 28 that's coming up is obviously our cuts that we're going to have to additionally make to get direction if we're going to do the 220, which will be 280, let's just say. And I think that's where I'm getting the feel from council. It's 280. Hoping if that goes down, that the fact of everything that we took out of here is definitely back in, and then let alone taking a look at some other things that you guys have removed that's on the top that we can also add back in because of the 1.4 that we're estimating will be back in play, I guess. So, but I think I feel in the direction of the 280. I feel like the eye staring at us.
The 280, I think, is correct, but if we go forward with the light project, it's another 169.
Or, hear me out,
Okay?
or you added $68,000 in subsidies, right? And we're talking about 220 for the infield. That's 288. What am I missing?
Lights.
The lights for,
Well, we really don't know what that is.
we don't. So you could just keep that at the 456 for now.
Yeah.
So why don't I just take 288, add that in revenue back in on sales tax? And because honestly, if IM 28 passes, you're not going to allow subsidies to go out right away anyways. So it's going to be off. Yeah, so I mean,
So
maybe that's better than going back and cutting more out of operations. Add those things in. I will increase revenue to offset it. knowing that if IM28 passes, you're probably not going to fund subsidies, and we're going to cut a lot of this other stuff out too.
Correct.
Stephanie,
Sorry.
Just tell her to keep crunching until we get the numbers.
okay, I'm just going to throw this out. So one of the things that I've heard you say is that if IM28 passes, that we have money in our reserves that we could
Right.
sustain ourselves for a year. So I'm just thinking if there were any one-time projects that we deemed were essential, and I'm thinking of the lights, that would be something that maybe we fund from our reserves. As a one-time thing, this is a year that we need to get this done. Why not? It would be a way to spend down those reserves like we've been talking about doing potentially. It's just an idea.
So I think to go along with that, we have $456,000 in the budget now. If we go through the process of weighing the wood versus the metal poles, and we find for another $300,000, we could do everything in wood and have the grant pay for it, best case scenario. Well, at that time, we could do a supplement out of those reserve funds at that time in the future. If you start talking about use of reserve funds, there's a whole lot of deferred maintenance in here that got cut or things that we need to address. So I don't want to start committing onesie, twosie projects of what you do out of those reserves funds without having a much bigger conversation about what do we need to do to finally fix the roof at the ice arena. What about that? We have a building that's coming up out of the ground, out of the sports complex. It just keeps coming up more and more every year. We have significant other things to talk about at that same time, which you could, we'll know where we are in November. You could have one whole session prioritizing what are these deferred needs that we need to address.
And what amount are we comfortable with taking from those reserves?
Right.
To that end, I think that it might be good of us to think about postponing our first Monday meeting in November to the second Monday of November. I don't know.
Can you do that legally?
No, I think state law, in city code, doesn't it say?
But
the
you
first
could do a
week of-
special meeting.
Let's add a special.
Well, so we could add a special meeting
Yeah.
where we're specifically, that as we talk about IM28, whatever happens there,
Yeah,
it's going
true.
to drastically affect the budget, that would be a good thing for us all to put on our calendars at
Yeah,
that
no,
second
that's a
Monday.
And if we all think positive and it's going to fail, then we've got 1.4 that we can circle back and say, where we did all the deferred maintenance that we have been looking at.
And there's still a bunch of reserves to this.
Are we meeting then on Monday?
This Monday,
seventh?
yes.
Next Monday, we have a regular meeting.
Right, I was just wondering if we're, no,
Do you,
meeting before that.
if I hear from you that you would rather me just do that
I'd rather do a special.
288 in revenue, add in the subsidies and the 220, right? Am I still on the right numbers? I'm looking at Dan, he's not shaking his head, yes. Okay. If I'm adding that revenue to offset those, you could really probably pause on that for any other conversations till that special meeting after the first meeting or the first week of November.
And maybe what we could do is at least get some more information on the lights.
Yeah.
So you
And
just
report
like
that back.
discussion,
Yep.
or even if you just bring, when Kevin gets more,
Yep.
Joe or whoever, Jeremy, and then come back and say, we learned a lot more.
Yep.
And these
No,
are the
that makes sense.
differential in the prices. We could do that during just a regular council meeting.
Next Monday, if they have the information, you put it on as a
Yep.
discussion.
Sure.
Otherwise, we do tentatively have a budget work session scheduled the 21st before the council meeting. So we could use that time too.
We'll have a meeting before that, the 14th too.
No, the 7th?
Oh, you're talking about October.
Yeah, sorry. October 21st, sorry.
And so I think on the opposite side of this, that in the world where we're talking about this not being successful at the ballot, that the voters will understand that it's not a grocery tax, but a much larger issue than what we're talking about. I think it would also be good for the city to circle back and look at what we could do with those to best utilize those extra funds that would have available. Not necessarily to put them in the budget as it sits right now, but think about other ways that we could utilize those funds, because like you said, there's projects that we don't have in this budget over $4 million.
Yeah.
That number sounds right? That we put off, that we could figure out ways to add that back in and prioritize those things that, because then in November, we're still going to have a meeting where we're trying to rush to figure out what to do with those funds.
And really, we could do that through a supplemental appropriation after the beginning of the year to add those other projects in as council prioritizes them.
Yep.
And that would work just great.
I think Tim's point is, is if people are questioning if they should vote yes or no, this is how it's affecting the city of Mitchell.
I voted nay, and I won't tell you how I voted.
Hope you voted right. But that's your point, is that these are the things that we can't afford because we're anticipating that it could lose and so, or it's going to get passed. And so that, these are the things that got left behind.
Yeah, I can do that. Is
You know-
that a discussion for the 21st
I think the
of
sooner you,
October?
the sooner you,
Us two will be gone.
Oh, okay.
I would say that if you, I mean, I don't know how much time you need, if you could have that as a part of next week's meeting, just as a discussion point.
Do you want to meet prior to council for a budget work session?
No, I'm
next
just
week?
saying,
Just on council?
just on council
Okay.
as a discussion only, no action to be taken,
Okay.
item. Information
Okay.
only.
And then you'll kind of get a wrap up too of where we are. So you know what you're looking at before November too. So that's not bad at all. That's a good idea.
And if you don't have the list done, just give it to the mayor. He
I
can
will.
talk about it in the mayor and city council part.
See, told you that was a
Is
good idea.
Up until Monday.
There you go.
I think it shouldn't be hard to put together. It's all in a spreadsheet.
Oh,
You know,
there you
and
go.
if IM 28 does
Document
fail,
the spreadsheet.
they talk about that they're going to bring it back at the next one with a little different language. So it's kind of going to be one of those things that's always looming,
Yeah, that's good.
you know? So I
Once
mean,
something is on the ballot, it's
if we do
always
have some
there.
deferred maintenance, I do agree with you guys where we should probably get it handled while things are, you know, every year is going to get, yeah, why is good and things go up in price every year. So maybe we should look at the things that are most important. So if we do get cut at a later time, we'll be saying, well, I'm glad I fixed all that stuff that was in poor shape.
I think contractors are hungry right now.
They're going to get, yes, you're right.
I think I have direction, so.
Are we good with everything? We can probably adjourn.